You're going to, and if that happens, it happens. You know, it happened at exactly the wrong time for Junior Far. It's not like there's ever a particularly good time for it, but that was particularly the wrong time for it in the context of his career. But they're all mindful of that. They all know that. They all have that kind of, I was going to say morbid acceptance. It's not morbid, because that's just how things are. It can happen, and when it does, you need to find a way to get around it, and Junior Far hopefully has done that. But Sanchez, one of a few undefeated fighters on the card, actually. Kabayel, Hrgovic, Bivol, Opataya, you know, there's plenty of those knocking around.
I wonder how much confidence Frank Sanchez took from that win over Efe Ajagba, because we talk about how anyone can go. Efe Ajagba, heading into that fight, had knocked out 14 of 15. He was looking like a real player in the heavyweight division. Frank Sanchez went in there and essentially nullified him. That was his breakout win, and now he needs that was tail end of 2021, I believe. He needs to do it again. He needs to do something again. A win over Junior Far, that gets a bit of momentum going, but I think we need to see him in with someone who people think's going to beat him.
Yeah. The problem he's got is he's got good rankings anyway. He's at 4 with the WBC. He's got the WBC Continental Americas belt, I think, and an NABO as well. So he's got some decent rankings. If you're above him, as I said before, you're not really going to want to fight him, because he's a who needs him kind of a guy. High risk, low reward, and hence why I feel like he's probably going to have to work his way up into mandatory. But getting on this card is a massive plus, because it's not quite as simple as winner stays on here. But if you win here, they will bring you back. I'm absolutely sure of that. And they only want big fights. And you look down at this card, and okay, some of these fights have got some big names in, but they're not massive fights in that he is expected to beat Junior Far. I'm sure Junior Far's aware of that. Filip Hrgovic is expected to beat Mark Demori. Again, Mark, you know, he's aware of that.
He's under no illusions.
Yeah, he's under no illusions. But if he wins, then he will be back, and next time in a bigger fight, which is what he needs. I think when that fight with the Ajagba was made, to be honest with you, if I'm Frank Sanchez, I bet he couldn't believe that they were prepared to put the Ajagba in with him. I bet he just could not believe they were prepared to take that risk. I was
surprised. Sometimes fights get announced and you think, really? And
why have you done that? Yeah.
100%. And look, you see it so often with these Cuban fighters who are good amateurs who come over to America, or they go somewhere there, and they can't speak the language, they're not particularly marketable, and they're very good, they're very hard to beat. Luis Ortiz had the problem for a little while where no one was beating him. But here is a man who is looking to beat a sensational Cuban amateur, Mr. Junior Far. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
You look like you enjoyed it, you know, like this workout. You had a nice little move around as well. You love it, don't you?
Hell yeah, man. It's been a while since I fought, man. It's felt like forever that I've been on a card like this. I don't think I've ever been on a card like this. I don't think anyone's been on a card like this. But the occasion is so massive, and I just like to be under the lights again, bro.
What did you make of Frank Sanchez? Did you have a look at his workout there?
Yeah. I think he's just done I think he's taken the same approach that I have, and just gone in there, mess around, have some fun, take some poses for the camera, and then just kind of save everything for the night, because I didn't see him do anything too technical there.
No, I mean, he just had a great drip on. He had he had the cap, he had the shirt, he had the shorts. I mean, he looks great up there.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Speaking to Mark Demori earlier on, and the two of you are kind of not quite in the same boat exactly, but you've got a similar demeanour to you. You know, you're both nice and relaxed. You know that the pressure to an extent is off you, and you're enjoying the week, but you'll click into fight mood when you need to.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, there was kind of zero pressure on us. We are old enough to realize that you can't put too much pressure on yourself, even though I do on the night, and I definitely will on the night. But I save that for the night. Right now, it's just all about reserving your, like, you know, energy, your, like, temperament, and then just basically enjoy the ride while it lasts. Yeah.
As an amateur, you did pretty well. I was looking earlier. I was looking at some of the names that you beat. You know, obviously it's quite well documented. You beat Joe Parker a couple of times. You went on to have that rematch in the pros. I wasn't aware until I looked. You've beaten Arslanbek Makhmudov, the absolute monster, in the amateurs. What are your memories of that fight?
Yeah, that was quite funny. See, it was quite funny you say that, because he came out to me last night and he gave me a big hug, because that fight was maybe 10 years ago now. just I basically approached it the same way that I would approach it now. He's just a big hitter, so you have to move and you have to turn him, and you can't let him set his feet. Yeah, man, but in terms of that, man, it was just cool to see him. It's cool to see him have the success that he has, and like, you know, in the future we could face again, man. That is something that I would, like, you know, hopefully welcome in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent possibility of that, because we were just saying that with the system here as it is, with the cards they're putting on, it is kind of winner stays on, I think. If you win your fight, then you will be rewarded with another opportunity, and you win your fight, he wins his fight, then why not?
Yeah, for sure, and I'm pretty aware that basically all the fighters here are very aware of that. I'm very aware that, like, if you win, you basically go on to the next massive event that they will hold. So, like, you know, this is just like kind of like sink or swim type of thing, you know. So yeah.
You've been in camp, not for the first time. You've been in camp with Deontay Wilder. Now, I'd imagine you've been sparring him as well. That's kind of the reason, right? Does he hit as hard in sparring? What's that like? How'd you spar that guy?
I don't need to try and take a hit from him to know that he hits hard. So yeah. So basically, when it comes to sparring Deontay Wilder, he brings out the best in you because you're forced to bring your best, because he hits that hard. Massive right, massive left as well. So like, sparring him is actually very, very, very good for this fight, because the guy that I'm taking, even though that he's not a big puncher himself, he forces you to stay sharp, and that's exactly what Deontay is forcing me to basically perform as while we're sparring. And basically on the night, that is what I'm hoping to be, sharp.
Well, look, he's taking on Joe Parker, a man you know very well, a man who you've beaten and you've lost to as well. Are you on good terms with Joe Parker? Are you pals? I can't remember seeing any animosity in the build-up to your fight with him.
Yeah, man. Me and Joe have like known each other for years. We don't live too far from each other as well. We're all from like the same like town kind of thing, Southside Auckland. So me and him, we just kind of know each other, very, very friendly towards each other as well. And like, you know, for their fight coming up, I wish them both the best. I know it's going to be a banger. I know it's going to be a good fight while it lasts.
He seems very confident, Joe. He's got this kind of quiet confidence about him, both him and Andy Lee. We know Andy well, and Andy's got this amazing way of kind of looking at you like he knows something you don't. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those fellas. But the two of them, they do seem very confident.
Yeah, Chucks, yeah, man. I think that's good, and like, you know, that's just, if that brings out the best in him, then we're basically in for a treat Saturday night.
I've heard actually Andy Lee talk about that fight potentially being a shootout between Joe Parker and Deontay Wilder. Now, I'm not sure anyone should really get into a shootout with Deontay Wilder, but hey, Andy Lee knows more than me. What do you think? Do you think it'll be a shootout kind of fight?
It's very risky. It's very risky because Deontay hits that hard, and getting hit by him can be unforgiving. So I would definitely say, like, you know, tread with caution. But if you believe that that's how you win, then basically, like, you know, pedal to the floor, and you have to swing and you have to believe.
Fantastic.
All the best.
Well, look, Junior, it's been fantastic speaking to you. We'll see you again tomorrow at the press conference, where you will come face to face with Frank Sanchez. By the way, have you had any face-off with him yet? He wasn't there the first launch press.
Not really. We kind of passed each other in the gym one time.
Give him a little one of them, little something. No, all good. All good.
Yeah. Okay, nice guy.
We'll see you tomorrow, my friend. Thank you so much, Mr. Junior Farr. As we are looking at Ajit Kabayal on the screen here. Junior Farr's got a big task of him, or Ajit Kabayal certainly does, because he is taking on this monster who is currently on your screen, the man they call Arslanbek Makhmudov. He's just got that swagger about him, Andy.
He has. He's a big man, and he walks tall and strong like a big man. He's surprisingly softly spoken. I think Darren was a little bit surprised, Darren Barker, yesterday when Arslanbek came over to chat to us. But, you know, when you look like that, you don't really need to mark out your territory, do you, to be honest? It's pretty clear where the boundaries are. But I'm really fascinated to see how he progresses, because he's undefeated. He's another fighter on the card with an undefeated record. He's got that win against Carlos Takam. That would be his best win so far. Co-promoted by Top Rank now. Got a win against an undefeated fighter on his first fight with them. And then we saw him back at the end of October. He's got really good fundamentals. It looks like everything is in place. But as is always the case, what we really need to know is what are his whiskers like? You know, what's going to happen when he gets hit hard and clean? And he'll say, of course, that he has been in sparring. And Takam had his moments, but at the same time, there are still question marks. And, you know, that's great. I love that.
I always find it frightening and fascinating when someone climbs over the top rope. That's what he's done here. Listen, back in the day, I was a big WWE fan. I think this guy's got a bit of Goldberg about him, the way he twitches his neck. And that, getting over the top rope, that's a bit of Kane. This guy is like a character from a completely different sport who's coming in here. He's got that grimace on his face. You don't want to mess around with him. And look, Ajit Kabayao's got to try and mess about with him on Saturday night. Maybe one of the kind of, well, I guess we don't know how tall a task it is in boxing, because he hasn't really beaten anyone other than Takam that we really know that stands out.
No, that's true. That's true, and that's what a few people have been saying about him, that he is largely unproven, and that's just a fact when you look down at the resume. But you know, good fighters are capable of making that step up from level to level, and that's what they're looking to do with him. I think he's been matched well. I think they've moved him at a decent pace. Top Rank are involved in this matchmaking now as well, of course, and they've got an excellent track record doing that. So I think the fights that he's had, the one that he had last time, was a blowout. It didn't last very long. But he's back on this card, so he's boxing again, 8-9 weeks later. And if he can get another win, then I'm sure he'll be asking to get on the February 17th, or maybe more realistically the March the 9th card, and just keep moving, keep working, and just see who they pick for him next, basically. But you look at the size of him and the length of the levers. You know, the raw materials are there for everybody to see.
Yeah, and by the way, they absolutely love him out here in Saudi Arabia.
They do, don't they?
It's certainly not his first visit. He comes here every year. You know, he's visiting the mosque. He's been visiting the mosques here in Fight Week. I've seen him on his Instagram story as well. So he's deeply into his religion, and you know, in Saudi Arabia, they have really taken to him. And I'm sure we will be seeing him again soon. As you talked about, should he come through, maybe the March 9th, maybe that will come too soon, maybe beyond that. But Arslanbek Makhmudov is a heavyweight that appears to be here to stay. But for him, it is his toughest fight to date in Ajit Kabayao. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's a two-time European heavyweight champion. I've seen him quite a few times, actually. We saw him against Chisora, obviously, at the end of 2017 in Monaco, and what was supposed to happen in that fight, talking of best laid plans, was Chisora would win and then rematch Dillian White early the next year, and Chisora didn't win. He speaks now of having some kind of epiphany after that fight, because he realised that he wasn't really dedicating himself to the sport in the way that he
Chisora did.
Needed to. Chisora, yeah, and since then, he defended it, and then he vacated it to try and kick on to bigger things, and he looked like he'd get that fight against Fury late 2020. It didn't happen. He was mooted as an opponent for AJ. Didn't happen. All very frustrating. I saw him box outdoors in Germany in a mid-July COVID show. Against a tick-over opponent, and that was really all he could do at that stage. So he's won that European title back, and now, and he really needed this. You know, this is really what he needed. I know his manager Benny Blanco a bit, and they were just so pleased when they got the call for this. No, they just couldn't. You know, they couldn't say yes quick enough.
Well, it's interesting what you say there about Ajit Kabayao and that win that he has over Derek Chisora, and how it led to an epiphany for Derek Chisora. Maybe Kabayao is the man responsible for turning Del Boy into War Chisora, because that was the last time we saw him sort of tentatively around the ring getting, you know, Kabaya'd in there. We saw War very shortly after against Dillian White.
Yeah, we did, absolutely.
So we've got Ajit Kabayao to thank for that.
Well, I mean, yes, exactly.
Well, here is Arslanbek Makhmudov. Has that mean look about him, has that menace about him. Hopefully we'll be able to grab a chat with him very shortly. He's a softer speaker than what you would think. And there's that neck twitch again. Goodness me. Two unbeaten heavyweights on Saturday night. Perhaps the sleeper fight of this show. It's a fight that maybe enough people aren't really talking about yet, but I think it's going to build up even more and more. And when you see a face-off, because remember, we haven't seen a face-off yet between Makhmudov and Kabayel. When we see them face off, I think the energy is going to go up, and we're going to start really looking forward to that fight. It's not often you get two unbeaten heavyweights in there going at it. And, you know, the heavyweight division is a great place to be right now.
I just disappeared there, Deb, because I'm trying to beckon over our good pal Ross Amber, who's over here with Arslanbek Makhmudov, who obviously corners Vasily Lomachenko, Alexander Usyk. He's deep in conversation with Joe Gallagher at the moment, but Joe's just pointing him in the right direction, and he'll come round and join us. Massive pool fan, Ross Amber, by the way. Fun fact for you: if there's a pool hall in the vicinity, then he will have been playing 9-ball over the last 2 or 3 nights. Russ, first very important question for you: have you managed to find a pool hall?
Yes, I have. It's a place called Snooker Center. Yeah, I have found it indeed. I found it last time I was here. This is not new.
No, true, absolutely. So we were just discussing Arslanbek Makhmudov. What interests me about the Canadian boxing scene the last 10-15 years is the fact that a lot of foreign fighters have found a home, haven't they? Beterbiev, Bute, Stevenson, Pascal, all of these guys. He's another one who's come over from Russia this time. So just fill us in. You know, what does your expert eye tell you about him?
Well, okay. First of all, let's make a slight correction on that. In that, you know, Pascal and Stevenson were basically, they've been in Canada since they were 4 years old. You know, they didn't come as adults. The Beterbiev one, I think, is the question to me, in my opinion, is how did he escape the view of all the other promoters in the world and end up in minus 20 degrees in Montreal, you know?
That's a good question.
Very good. That's the real question, you know? And I think that influenced Arslanbek to make the trip to Montreal. And I think they see the boxing culture that's there, and they've integrated into that very well, and the fans have supported them along the way. So they put shows on for them, so it's been good. Now, he's on the scene now, and, you know, the thing about this guy, he's 6'8", 6'7", whatever, 285 pounds. He thinks he can beat anybody. He doesn't care. Like the bell ring, he fights the same way if he was fighting you. Doesn't matter. He just comes out. So, and I think you saw that in the last fight in October. You know, he just comes out and comes to work. So he's an exciting guy to watch fight. I think he's a dangerous out for any heavyweight in the world, in my opinion.
Listen, in the ring, we're watching what he does. He is a brute. He does what he wants. But outside of the ring, whenever we've spoken to him, pretty softly spoken, very mild-mannered. We know he's deeply into his religion as well. Hey, he's a nice guy, but a nasty guy in there.
Well, I think you could say the same thing, and you'd be witness to this. You could say the same thing about Beterbiev.
Absolutely.
Right? Same type of character, you know, like joking around outside the ring, very calm and everything, and, you know, very happy-go-lucky. And then when it comes time to get in the ring, they conduct their business like professionals. You know, there's no trash talking, there's no swearing, there's no, you know, doing any of that. They conduct themselves with class, they do their job, and they win. And I think boxing needs more of that.
But Ajit Kabayel, it feels like it's a bit of a step up. I know he's boxed Takam. Takam was maybe over the hill at that point. Kabayel, he's ready to go. He's unbeaten. What do you think?
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be a good fight. I mean, Kabayel, he's not just going to lay down in front of Kabayel. It's going to be a tough win for him to get that, you know. So Kabayel's going to have to work for that. It's not going to be easy because he doesn't believe he can lose. So that's good. That's a good thing.
So we're going to see you back here in Saudi Arabia for February the 17th. Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk, as you give me a little twitch of the eyebrows as Ellis Soro just joins us, making his way into the ring. He's challenging Jai Opataya in the cruiserweight division. Fury Usyk, talk to us about that.
Look, I think it's the fight that's a long time coming, the one that people have been waiting for, and I'm glad it's finally made. I'm still a little on the pessimistic side. I'll believe it when we're walking up the steps and make sure that we're here, but all set to go for Fury, and I'm looking for a fight that'll be remembered for a long, long time.
Hey, I think we can be optimistic about that fight now. I think the fact that we have had that launch press conference, the fact that they have seen the whites of each other's eyes, they faced off, and they have the backing of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I think we are going to see that. Good. I wouldn't worry.
Good.
So what were you thinking when you were watching Fury against Ngannou? Because Alexander was ringside and he was quite close to me, and the look on his face, he just could not believe what was unfolding.
To be honest with you, I felt that it was a typical Tyson Fury shark. You know, like he tricked everybody, you know, into, and the guy's better than that. And believe me when I tell you, we're not going into the ring thinking that we're facing the Tyson Fury that fought Ngannou. I think he sharked everybody. You know, he wanted to trick everybody and try whatever he wanted to do, or he literally didn't expect too much from Ngannou and maybe got more than he expected. But I think it was a combination of Ngannou being better than we expected and Fury not being as good as we expected, which ended up making it the fight that it was. But there is no way in the world that the lineal heavyweight champion of the world has this much trouble with a guy who's never had a professional contest. I don't care what sport he did before. I think Tyson Fury keeps sharking us. That's what he keeps doing.
So talk to us about the two fights at the top of this bill, because you've been in the opposite corner to Anthony Joshua with Alexander for those two fights, for those 24 rounds.
Yeah.
What have you made of Joshua's kind of rehabilitation since then, and how much of a threat do you think Otto Wallin is?
To be honest, listen, I think second question first. Then I think Otto Wallin is a threat. I think he's a legitimate fighter, and I think the one person who can attest to that is Tyson Fury. You know, and I think it's fair to say he's given him one of his toughest fights.
Gave him a scare, for sure.
No doubt about it, okay? As far as the Joshua thing is concerned, I think the British media and people around, people who are directly connected to Joshua, I think, you know, made him feel like what he did with Usyk was a failure, a massive failure. And it wasn't. It wasn't. You know, like it was a hotly contested contest. The first fight after 8 rounds, the fight's even. You know, like everybody just downplayed it like he was supposed to walk through Usyk and it was supposed to be a walk in the park, and everybody treated him like he was, you know, Britain's greatest failure, and that's not right.
I totally agree with that.
It's not right that they did that, you know, like he fought a good guy, man. He fought a guy who was proving himself as a legitimate champion, and you all treated Anthony with a lot of disrespect, I believe, and he deserved better than that for what he's done in bringing British boxing to where it is and on the world stage, and being 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, and coming back from a crushing defeat to Ruiz to win the title again, and you lose to Usyk and you treat it like as if you were a 9-1 underdog and you lost to the guy. You know, come on, it wasn't fair. It wasn't right what they did.
Well, what do you think of the fight this weekend, him and Otto Wallin then? And people are talking about Otto Wallin having that southpaw stance. Do you give Otto Wallin a chance? How are you seeing this?
Just repeat the part you said. Is it giving Otto Wallin what?
Is Otto Wallin, are you giving him much of a chance? People are talking about his southpaw stance, how Anthony Joshua has had trouble.
Yeah, I mean, like this, he's a legitimate guy. And again, this should be a tip of the hat to Joshua for taking on somebody like Otto Wallin, because as one of the faces of boxing, he can pretty much command and fight whoever he wants to fight, because he's somewhat the cash cow still in the heavyweight division. And to fight Otto Wallin to bring it back after the loss. Okay, he had the fight in between, but really coming off a legitimate opponent after Usyk is a good step for him, you know. And then agreeing, apparently, I don't know if it's right, to fight Wilder. Should Wilder beat Parker? Yo, the guy's a man. He's a man, and he steps up, and he deserves the credit.
Absolutely. Russ, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. I hope to talk to you again later this week. Fascinating insight, and thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me, guys. Thank you very much.
There you go, Mr. Russ Abner there. Fascinating insight into the Usyk camp mindset heading into this, what they thought of the Fury fight. Fascinating stuff, Andy.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy to talk to, Ross. He's been around boxing for a really long time. I mean, at the moment, people think of him more as a corner man, as someone who's an expert hand rapper, but he was a trainer from way back in the day. David Lemieux was his fighter when Lemieux was, really making strides. So he really knows what he's talking about. And I agree with him. I've always said since the fight happened that second fight against Usyk would age well. There's Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia making his way to the ring, who is promoted by Eddie Hearn, who joins us now. That was a seamless link. Jai Opetaia making his way to the ring, Eddie. Just explain for people who haven't heard what the situation is with the IBF, what happened and how it happened, because I read your comments about it the other day and I agree with you that it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those situations where common sense deserts you. I feel like rules are in place to protect fighters, they're in place to protect mandatory challengers and people that have earned the shot to position themselves. Here, no one was being affected. Maris Bradis was the mandatory challenger. He wasn't ready for December 23rd. We all agreed a deal to fight in March, but Jai wanted to be active. His Excellency offered him a fight to fight, with Queensbury fighter Ellis Zorro. We all accepted the deal. Let's keep the belt active. Maris Bradis said, no problem. Wasserman said, no problem. We said, no problem. I don't understand what the problem is. So this is just another problem where boxing rules can interfere the progress of a fighter's career. And this is a life-changing opportunity for Jai Opetaia that he shouldn't have and didn't let it pass him by. If he would have turned this fight down and had to wait till March, who knows what could have happened? Bradis could have pulled out in March. He could have lost this opportunity. So the Ring magazine's on the line, and we all know Jai Opetaia is the #1 cruiserweight in the world. Belts do matter, but sometimes we've got to be strong enough to say, no, we've got to do the right thing.
Will Anthony Joshua do the right thing on Saturday night? What have you made about his demeanour, his mindset? I'm sure you like that he's laser focused and he's kind of what happened yesterday. You must be a fan of that kind of AJ.
I want him to be more aggressive, and I think you've done a great job, Dev, in stoking the fire, AJ.
Thanks very much.
But you know, I think I like what I see. You can't really win with AJ. On one hand, he's being too placid. You know, oh, he doesn't really look up for it. Then he's too aggressive. Then he's too short. Then he waffles on with his answers. It's like whatever you want. So what I'm seeing from him is a guy who looks like he means business this week. Everything that I'm hearing out of the Ben Davison camp is like, I've just had some lunch with them. They are pumped up for this performance. I mean, I'm excited to see what he's going to do under Ben Davison. AJ's one of those guys, when he believes in the game plan, when he believes in what he has to do, I think he's unbeatable. And you've seen in fights, he hasn't done that, particularly in the two Usyk fights. He was a bit lost with the tactics, he just wasn't comfortable with camp. Time will tell, but at the moment, he wants to take someone's head off.
Well, hopefully not me, Eddie.
No, well, you know, we'll see. We've got to get to Saturday first. But, you know, obviously it's a very vibrant atmosphere around here. You've got Jarrell Miller, everyone's stoking the fire. It's a good, I think he's enjoying it.
Listen, one final one before we let you go. Your perfect plan, is it knock out Otto Wallin and then knock out Deontay Wilder? Is that what you guys want to do?
We've wanted that for a long time. You know, there's always been a narrative that AJ doesn't want the Wilder fight. We don't want the Wilder fight. You know, the job for every promoter is to put on the biggest fights in the world. I think Joshua Wilder is the biggest, if not right up there with Fury against Usyk. The only thing that matters is Saturday night. We get through, I believe you'll see the Wilder fight next, and that's a thriller. But listen, Parker's not out the running. Warlin's not out the running. You got your boy against Jarrell Miller. I love that fight. I love that fight. This is an unbelievable night of boxing.
Eddie, I'm sure we'll be speaking to you a lot more during fight week. Great to speak to you. And are you going to fist bump me? Do you want to? Yeah, we'll do that. Lovely little fist bump. Let's bring in Mr. Ellis Zorro. Opportunity of a lifetime. Do you enjoy that up there? I mean, your face was up on the screen and everything. This is pretty big. So this ain't your call, Ellis.
Yeah, it's not your call. It's massive, man. I'm taking it all in. I'm enjoying every day. Like, I'm enjoying all the different media things that I've got to do. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it.
From every interview that I've seen with you, every time that I've heard you speak, whenever I've spoken to you about this fight as well, I've been so impressed, me personally, with your mindset. You're just looking at this guy. Sure, he's very good, but 2 arms, 2 legs, right?
Yeah, and it's just, I said it over there to the zone. I'm undefeated, not necessarily for a reason. I am undefeated for a reason, but I've never anticipated losing or thought about losing. I've been underdog before. Obviously, this is a much higher. My opponent is much higher in his skill set, but my mindset remains the same. Yeah.
What do you make of him? Not necessarily as a fighter, but kind of as a person, because he's very intense. He's very intense, Jai Opetaia.
No, I think he's cool, man. I've seen him in the hotel. He's been cool. Yeah, I haven't felt necessarily. That's not my perception of him now, to be honest. Now.
Bit of a change in training setup, I understand. You're back with Martin Bowers as well. You're back with the Peacock boys. Tell us a little bit about that, and how is that going to help you, Ellis?
In terms of experience, it will help me. Obviously, Martin's been on this level before. That's not necessarily why I departed from Mickey. It's a separate reason. But yeah, like, he's been here with Daniel and Usyk and whatnot. So yeah, he's been on the big stage, and I'm sure having that calmness and composure in my corner can only be a benefit.
And you're a guy that's never lost, right? I've heard you talk about this. Amateur or pro, you've never lost, so you've never had that feeling, and it's really not even on your mind heading into this, even though everyone's writing you off, right?
Yeah, like I said to you yesterday, that people have wrote me off before. Obviously, there's just a lot more people saying it because the event is so big, and this show has been promoted a lot more than the normal show. But yeah, man, I come to win, and that's it. That's all. Like I said, I come to win.
Well, boxing history is littered with upsets, isn't it? You'd think that people would learn. You know, writing somebody off is a very, very dangerous thing to do. In terms of your preparation, I mean, do you try and treat it like any other fight, or is this different because of the stage?
I said this before, like with some of my other fights, like the Boxer, there was a part of me where I always thought I was going to win. Hosea, I'd seen him lose before against Dan Aziz. I kind of knew the blueprint. Dick Spellman, again, another tough opponent, but I felt I had the better of him. With Obadiah, it's like there's no blueprint on how to beat him. He's looked very, very good in his recent fights. So I think it gives me that extra bit of like, I got that extra bit of respect for my opponent. Not to say that I ever cut corners before in training, but you know, I'm going to bed extra bit early. I'm training hard. I'm doing the extra miles. I'm doing the extra rounds. So, and that's what happens when you're fighting this kind of opponent. Yeah.
Hey, so even though it's been a short camp, no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. This camp's just been about, obviously he's a southpaw, so getting in southpaw sparring and preparing to fight a left-handed fighter. Yeah.
When you think about it, when you look at the cruiserweight division, I've heard you say he wasn't really on your radar because you were going the WBO route. You won that European title. Is he the hardest fight out there for you when you think about it?
Yeah, I would say so. I think he's the hardest fight for anyone. Yeah, he's definitely the #1 in the division, you know. So, but I'm glad that I'm gassed, man. I'm glad that I can like test myself against him. It'll really show where I'm at. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, you've been around a lot of great fighters. AJ, Wilder, I'm sure you've met them all. I'm sure you've been in their company. Who's surprised you? Anyone surprised you?
Oh, I would probably say Wilder. Wilder's very embracing, because I always see him doing the bomb squad thing. So he's very embracing, very warm, and yeah, very cool, man. Yeah, Wilder.
Very cool, man. Good answer, Ellis. And Andy, anything you want to ask our man here, Phil?
So I remember I saw you at the press conference when it was all announced, and we had a quick chat on the way in. You'd come nice and early just to have a look at the place, which was a good idea actually, because the scale of it was absolutely immense. Did you have any hesitation in taking this fight? Was it put to you and you were left to think about it for a bit, or did you immediately say yes to it?
What you gotta understand is, yeah, where I come in from small hall boxing, this is like what I've been doing it for, you understand? If I turn down this fight, like, where am I gonna go? That's always been my mindset. I've never been in a position to like turn down a fight, take a warm-up fight. I've never had the promotional backing until I won the Boxer. So I've never had that, how do I say, yeah, I've never had that opportunity to turn down fights and think, oh, let me wait a bit longer. I'm 31 years old, do you know what I mean? I started boxing a little bit late. If I was 18, 19 years old and this phone call rang, then maybe I'll go another way, like if that was my agenda. But at this age, on this kind of show, for this kind of money, no.
Listen, when you won that Boxer tournament, I remember it was a big deal. That was £40,000. That was like 40 bags. Life-changing money at the time. You're smirking now. Look, at the time you said, I'm going to help change my daughter's life with this. Yeah. With this isn't 40 bags. I'd imagine it's a bit more than that. You can really make an impact on your life with that money, right?
Yeah, massively. And that's why I'm in it. Like, we're prize fighters at the end of the day. It's not personal between me and any of my opponents. I'm just in there to provide myself and my family with a better life, and that's what this fight has allowed me to do.
Fantastic stuff. Ellis, best of luck to you. We'll see you tomorrow at the presser. Are you going to like flip a table or give him a little shove at the presser? Anything?
I'm cool, man. That's not in my character. No. You know that, Dev.
I do know that by now. I do know that. Thank you so much, Ellis Sorrow. And what we talked about there, just briefly, it was nice to see him smile when thinking about how he is going to change his life. He has changed his life with this opportunity. When he won that Boxer tournament, which I think was 3 fights on one night, he won 40 grand, right? And which is good money. This is altogether different. This will change everything for Ellis Sorrow. A win will change everything forever.
A win would be absolutely momentous, because he would be back here on the next card, I'm sure, and he would claim the berth of #1 cruiserweight in the world. But they do this for the money. That is why they're professionals. Me and you and fans, we think about titles and glory and legacy and things like that, but ultimately this is a prize fighting sport, and they trust that if they win the titles then the money will come, but they are doing this to get paid. And £40,000 made a big difference to his life. What he knows is that he's going to get paid a certain amount for this fight, whatever happens on Saturday. And he will know in his head just what that can do for him. And the pressure that he may have felt throughout his entire career and life, possibly, so far, I don't know well enough to be able to say that or not, that money could make that all disappear immediately. And then all of a sudden, camp is different. All of a sudden, you can concentrate more on the job in hand and more on your opponent, because that pressure that you've always had has gone, and you can't underestimate something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, you certainly can't underestimate Jai Opataya. That was so intense. Just as we were having a chat there, I was watching him on the screen, and when he was posing for the cameras, something happened to his eyes, Andy. Do you know what they talk about, the eye of the tiger? He's got that. He has that look. He has been so focused all week. He's a man who believes he's the king of the cruiserweight division. He just needs to collect all those belts to really prove it.
Yeah, he absolutely does think that. When I described him as intense to Ellis, I didn't mean it as any kind of a criticism, but I do find it, I do feel an intensity from him, but I like it because he loves fighting. You know, this is what he wants to do. He's worked really hard to be here, and he's got that challenger mentality. We were talking to him yesterday. He's got that kind of chip on his shoulder whereby he looks at a stage, he looks at competitors, and he gains that motivation from kind of inventing in his own head that they've got this kind of attitude that he shouldn't be here, that he hasn't earned his place here. Loads of fighters do that, and it works. It works really well for him. He's a powerful guy. Yeah. He's a dangerous guy, and he's good to watch as well.
Yeah, listen, and that was very well explained, Andy. That chip on the shoulder, and not in a negative way, in a kind of, look, he even said it at that launch press conference. I asked him, you know, does this feel like a lifetime of hard work finally being rewarded? And he said, look, I'm looking around here, I'm thinking, oh, should I be up here? But then I think, yeah, I do deserve to be up here. He does belong. For me, he's one of the best fighters in the world, and that performance last time out against Jordan Thompson, listen, Eddie Hearn referred to it himself as a demolition job. It truly was that.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And we're just watching Lyndon Arthur making his way down the walkway. He's got a similar kind of job to Ellis Zorro. Lyndon Arthur taking on WBA light heavyweight champion Dmitry Bivol. It's either Bivol or Beterbiev who is the number one light heavyweight in the world. That's a fight we could see out in these parts before too long. But with Opataya, that was a great performance against Thompson. But for me, it was the win against Breedis. He had a double fracture of the jaw. That is an absolutely appalling injury. And most people wouldn't be able to continue with that because, as I understand it, when that happens, you can't even really close your mouth because essentially your teeth are in the way. But you somehow have to try and keep it clamped as shut as you can, because if your mouth hangs open and you get hit clean, I mean, it almost comes straight off, and the pain would be unreal. So just being able to bite down, although he couldn't actually physically bite down and get through that just tells you an awful lot, because we expect fighters to be able to do things like that. Saying it is one thing, doing it is another. But a double jaw break is, I mean, it's hideous.
Yeah, listen, an unbelievable injury to fight on through that. The one that comes to mind, because that sometimes that can set a fighter apart, as you say. You learn something new. I remember Arthur Abraham fighting on with a completely broken jaw, coming off that and coming back to win by knockout. You learn something about fighters in terms of what they're able to overcome, in terms of adversity in the ring. Opataya has showed us he might be something quite special.
Yes, because you need those minerals. If you've got the minerals and you've got the skills, then you've really got something. You've really got something. And the higher the level you get to, the more you need of both. And what it comes down to a lot of the time is, can your will be broken? And when it comes to really top champions, any champion really, but really top champions, their will cannot be broken. And that double jaw break, boxing on from that, and it happened quite early as well. Certainly the first break, that just shows that his will cannot be broken. So if you're going to beat someone like him, it is going to be incredibly hard earned, and that's why he's the kind of fighter you want to watch, because he's always going to be in a good fight.
So we were having a fascinating chat, I thought, anyway. It's fascinating for me yesterday, maybe not for you, Andy, but in the car on the way to the venue, we were talking about how he hasn't got that IBF world title anymore, and you suggested that maybe fighters won't be in a queue to fight him now that he doesn't have that world title, despite him being Ring Magazine champion. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts, and after that conversation, have you changed your mind after what I said?
I just think if you look at the other belt holders, the WBC is Noel Michaelian. He beat Ilunga Makabu, and as I understand it now, having beaten the Don King fighter in Ilunga Makabu, he's now a Don King fighter, which doesn't make fighting him impossible, but it presents certain problems. Arsene Goulamirian, the WBA champion, seems to be constantly embroiled in contractual or managerial disputes, and seemingly is no nearer fighting now than he has been for a while. So if you're going to come straight back in, maybe he would want to fight Opataya if it brought enough money to the table. If it happened out here, that's different. Well, because then, you know, then you would want to fight him, because you would be coming out here. If he becomes a kind of a chosen one, of Saudi boxing, then that's a game changer. If you're Bilham Smith, the WBO champ, you're expecting Riyadh to be made mandatory. That's a great all-British showdown. And as I understand it, whoever wins that is then contracted to fight Lawrence Okolie because he's agreed to step aside. So he could find himself having a little bit of a problem getting a world title fight.
Well, the only contrary thing to that is exactly what you said. If he becomes the chosen one here, and look, it sounds like it's more than just one fight that he's got out here, Jai Opetaia. It sounds like there's a bit of a plan and a bit of a vision for him. If he becomes the money man of the cruiserweight division, if he can invite opponents out here to Saudi Arabia, I'm not sure he'll have any problem at all. And maybe like a unification fight, hey, maybe that, well, not unification, but you know, another world title for him could make sense.
Yes, exactly. The Riyadh factor is big in this, and there's no point pretending it's not. And he does still have that Ring Magazine belt, and we do rightly rate him as being the #1 cruiserweight in the world, and I wouldn't take any issue with that because he beat Breedis, and Breedis was the man, wasn't he? You beat the man and you become the man. So, you know, I don't have any argument with that. Here he comes.
Speak to the man himself, Mr. Jai Opetaia. Great to see you. Great to see you. Listen, we were just talking about this whole IBF situation. I'm sure for you it's an unwanted distraction in fight week, but do you think it will affect you in any way kind of negatively in terms of getting the fights that you want? The fact that you don't have that belt anymore, what do you think?
Last night I had dinner with the Sheikh. We went to the Sheikh's house and we had an awesome dinner, and he done a great speech, and he spoke about the best fighters fighting the best fighters. You know what I mean? And I feel like he's someone that we've been waiting for in this boxing world. You know what I mean? All the politics, all that bullshit that happens outside the ring, I feel like he's someone that just wants the best fighters to fight the best fighters, and he has the financial backing to do it. So who knows what the future has in hold, you know what I mean? But in saying that, I don't see those world titles like they're not going to come. All I've got to do is win, and all I've got to do is do my job and train hard and continue to do what I've been doing, and I feel like they'll wrestle fall into place.
Do you have a feeling of being, because this is largely a heavyweight card, but there's a cruiserweight fight yourself and a light heavyweight fight, because you are the only cruiserweight representative along with Ellis Sorrow challenging you, do you feel like the chosen one right now?
Man, I feel like I'm at the forefront of representing my country, you know, Samoa and Australia, and representing my cruiserweight division. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm opening doors, and I'm raising the bar. And we all are, you know, the cruiserweight division is huge. You know, there's other cruiserweight fighters all around the UK. I feel like the competition right now is hot, man, you know what I mean? So I'm just pumped for the future, you know, there's so many great fights to be made. There's a lot of money to be made, and that's why we're here. You know, we're here to fight the best and get paid in the process.
It's interesting watching you up in the ring there, just doing the workout, because there's some fighters I see, I'll go and see them on a Tuesday morning in the gym, and as soon as they get through the ropes, they just come alive. They love it in there, whatever time of day it is, whether there's thousands watching, whether there's nobody watching. You're one of them, aren't you? You just love it in the ring.
And in that ring is where I'm comfortable. That's where all my hard work has been done. I had my first fight at 8 years old, and I have fought my whole life. When I'm in that ring, that's where I belong. Here with these cameras, you know, this is where I'm uncomfortable, and I feel, you know, a little bit out of place. But in there, that's me. So it just feels like, you know, all this talk, all this stuff, nothing, it's all talk unless it all happens in there. So that's where I like to do my talking mostly.
It's interesting what you said there about sometimes like maybe you feel out of place. We was talking about this, what you said at that launch press conference, where you talked about, I'm looking around, I'm like, do I belong here? But actually, yeah, I do belong here. Do you have this kind of chip on your shoulder where you feel, yeah, I need to show these guys what I'm all about?
I don't mean I don't belong up there with the fighters. I mean with you guys in suits. You know what I mean? We live different worlds. You know what I mean? My upbringing and the way I've had to live my life in and out of the gym 24/7, fighting in the ring, a lot different to other people. You know what I mean? But up on that stage, in that press conference with other fighters, that's where I belong. You know? That when I was there, it was like, yes, you know, finally I'm here where I belong. So I'm pumped to be a part of this fight night, you know, and I'm pumped to be making statements.
My understanding is you've got the call now from Tyson Fury. Please come and join me in camp. Please help me prepare for Alexander Usyk. How will you approach that? How will you approach that spar? Are you looking to kind of help him, or are you looking to help you and gain from it?
We're world champions. You don't play boxing. He's the same. You don't go in there, you don't take it too easy. You go in there and you spar. You're there to better yourself, and I'll be getting ready for a fight, he'll be getting ready for a fight. So it's going to be good, It's all experience under the belt, mixing it up with other world champions. I believe he's one of the best heavyweight world champions of our generation. You know what I mean? I've got tremendous respect for Tyson Fury, but I'm so excited to get there and do what I do and earn their respect. You know what I mean?
But back to Saturday night, you've got a job to do against Ellis Zorro. He's somebody you might not have known all that much about. This is a massive opportunity for him. And you said something really interesting to me on Monday where you look at Ellis Zorro and he's you 2 or 3 fights ago. And that, regarding him like that, means that you can't take him lightly.
Not at all. I don't take any fight lightly. Who I was before I fought Breeders, that's exactly who they thought. You know what I mean? I didn't have a chance. He was too good for me. All that. So I'm training for someone like me. I'm training for someone that's as hungry as me and I was. I know there's someone out there that's going to come and test me. So I'm ready for it.
Fantastic. Great speaking to you. I love speaking to you. I feel like you've opened up more and more as we've got closer to fight night, actually. You see some fighters start closing off. You seem to be getting more and more comfortable in the week. Do you agree with that?
I don't know, man. Like I said, this stuff in front of the cameras, it's not me. You just got me halfway through a session and then cut me off, so I'm a little pumped up. But I'm pumped to be here.
I was saying this to Ellis earlier, this is the first time I met you this week, and you've got a real energy about you. Coming out of the ring, of course you do now, you've got a sweat on, but even just generally, I do feel a real energy off you and intensity off you. Have you always been like that?
Not really. I don't know. I muck around a lot as well. But when I'm here, we're here to do a job. I'm here for a purpose. I'm away from family. I'm making sacrifices. I don't get to spend Christmas with my family. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? This isn't time to waste. I'm here to make the most of it. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, well, best of luck to you, Joey Opetaia. Brilliant meeting you. Drop the mic back there.
Appreciate it.
And fist bump me on the way out, please. Mr. Joey Opetaia. A fascinating man. And you talked about the intensity. You can see it there. Like he really thinks about what he's going to say. He thinks about his answers. It feels like he's ready to have a fight.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And he's one of these guys who he will say that it's nothing personal, and he will mean it, because an opponent to him is just somebody who's in his way. But he is looking to absolutely take you apart. Yeah. He's looking to punish you mercilessly for being in his way. And he's vicious. He's a vicious fighter, and you need to be when you get to the top level. I like the demeanour of Ellis. I think he's approaching this in exactly the right way. But it is a very tough job that he's got on his hands on Saturday night. There's no question about that. And I like that mentality that he's got Opetaia of looking at Ellis Zorro and thinking, I know where you are because that's where I was until recently.
Well, I think his mentality, both mentality of both fighters, has been absolutely superb into this. These are guys who don't know how to lose. 2 undefeated cruiserweights heading into there. It's a fascinating matchup. And in terms of Ellis Zorro, he could change everything. He could change his whole life. Even if he puts on a good performance, even if he lands a few good shots, his stock still goes up, because widely he's not expected to do an awful lot against Joey Opetaia. Even in a good defeat, he could come out looking well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're talking to these guys during the week, and it's the same with Lyndon Arthur, you tread carefully, because you don't want to say to them, listen, win, lose or draw, in brackets, I don't think you're going to win, but with a good performance you can do this, that and the other. But you're absolutely right. It is one of those situations where your stock can absolutely rise in defeat with a good performance, because you've gone from, this was probably around English title level. I think that's probably about fair, because the cruiserweight scene in the UK is pretty stacked. And the people ahead of him in those rankings to box for the British title, so that would have been roughly where he was, maybe between English and British, somewhere around there. If he could put up a good performance against Joey Opetaia, then all of a sudden people will look at him differently. Look at Craig Richards against Dimitri Bivol. No one really expected him to do much, did they? And he won at least, he won 4 rounds in that fight, I thought, maybe 5 rounds. He gave a really good account of himself. And Jack Massey, not that long ago, against Joseph Parker, stepped up to heavyweight to take him on, hung in there for the distance, and did himself a lot of favours. So that is the way that you do want to look at it as well, because it could get really hard in there for you, and you just need to make sure that, as in any fight, you don't leave with any regrets, because when the opportunity's that big, you need to max it out. And in certain instances, that might not mean winning.
No, absolutely that. Listen, we've got Ellis Sorrow taking on Jai Opetaia. Ellis Sorrow's a big underdog. You've also got Lyndon Arthur taking on Dimitri Bivol. Like, Bivol is 1 or 2 in the division. Opetaia is generally seen as 1 in his division. Who do you think's got the harder mountain to climb in terms of Brits challenging at the very top level, Lyndon Arthur or Ellis Sorrow?
I think Ellis, because Lyndon has beaten Anthony Yard. He's won a Commonwealth title. He's got that OBO title, which isn't as highly regarded as the other 4 sanctioning bodies.
Hey, but Bivol wants it. Bivol wants that belt.
Bivol does want it. He does want it. But Lyndon's been in there with some good guys. He's mixed at a higher level than I think Ellis has so far. So I think in that regard, when you look at the gap in the rankings, if you like, between the two of them, I think you would have to say that Ellis has got the tougher job. But Lyndon Arthur's got a very tough job against Dimitri Bivol, and he knows it. Bivol's he's quite a quiet guy by the look of him, quite softly spoken, but again, he's all business. You look at the job he did against Canelo, and it was pretty spectacular. We've got Lyndon Arthur just sidling over
Lyndon
now.
King Arthur, you're just so chilled. You ready to have a fight on Saturday, yeah?
Nah, I'm chilling. I'm here. What? Nerves probably come fight night, but right now I'm just enjoying it.
What have you made of Dimitri Bivol? Have you seen him around this week?
I've seen him. Look, there's no animosity between any of us, but we just say when we run a fight, it's business.
All business, Andy Clark.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you said there that the nerves will come. I'm curious, during fight week, at what stage do they generally start to come? At what stage do you kind of let them in? Because you need them, don't you?
You just come throughout the day. You do need them. I think gives you an extra bit of sharpness. Coming to the arena, then getting your hands wrapped, and then it's time to go. And just go in there and do what you can.
Well, there is Dimitri Bivol currently on the screens for viewers. What do you see when you're looking at him? Is this just a target, one big target?
It's just a boxer like me, 2 arms, 2 legs. He's okay at boxing.
Hey, he's no Lyndon Arthur.
There we go. That's what I'm saying.
Is this boxer versus boxer on Saturday? Do you expect this to be a fight that goes the distance with one outboxing the other? What do you think?
I don't know how it's going to play out. You just got to adapt with what's in there. I believe I'm going to come good, and I'm assuming he does so.
I heard you talk about how, you haven't had an awful lot of notice for this fight, but you said something very interesting. If someone offers you a fight on the street, you're not going to say to him, oh, can I come back in 10 weeks?
Yeah,
You've got to take it.
Exactly. It's kind of an approach, not so much that, but it kind of is like, you don't get time all the time. Sometimes you just got to say, all right, let's have it, and that's what's happened there.
Was it an instant yes from yourself and Pat?
One instant, but a couple of days. But we're here now.
I understand there's been a couple of little tweaks in camp here. You're doing some stuff in a hot room in Liverpool. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Apparently, I don't know.
Are you not then?
Yeah, we went down to Wayne's gym, Golden Gloves gym. It's got a good room in there. Heating temperature. Working there, and makes you sweat a lot. Makes you tight faster.
And what does a win for Lyndon Arthur mean on Saturday night?
World is my oyster. My world is already my oyster right now, but to do that, I'm looking forward to it.
We were saying to Ellis Sorrow, he's in a similar-ish kind of situation to you, that this is an opportunity to change your life. I mean, is that something that you allow yourself to think about much, or do you just try and treat it like any other fight and keep it more on the down low?
Nah, look, it's just another fight. I'll deal with after it, because nothing changes until I beat him. So I'll deal with that after.
Fantastic stuff, Lyndon. We will see you tomorrow at the press conference. Are you going to give me anything at the presser? Give me a little something. Come on, give me something.
Like what? What do you want?
I don't know, just like call him a couple of names and then say, no, don't punch me up. Punch him up, if anyone. Yeah. But yeah, brilliant seeing you, and we'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
Fist bumping,
yeah, please.
I'm making that mistake again. I'm going to shake you.
Thank you, Lyndon Arthur. I've made a vow to myself, Andy Clark. I will choose the fist, and I will commit to the fist. None of this stuff, choose the fist.
One of the most confusing things in boxing is handshakes. People might not be aware of this, but it's an absolute minefield. The amount of times I've kind of grabbed a fist, or you don't know whether the handshake's going to be just a regular handshake or that kind of inverted handshake, or whether someone's going to lean in, or whether it's going to be a full-on hug. It's an absolute minefield. That's why I enjoyed COVID boxing, Kev, because all of a sudden we're just fist bumping and everyone knows where they are.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I actually had a horrendous one the other day where I did the kind of the slap, and then I went in with the shoulder thinking the shoulders were going to meet, and the guy that I did it with just kept his distance and kept away, and I almost ended up falling in, losing my balance. It doesn't get much worse than that, Andy.
No, these are the problems that we have that people aren't aware of.
But what problems can Lyndon Arthur cause Dimitri Bivol, who we are watching now, a very fluid boxer? What can Lyndon Arthur do in there against this guy to cause him issues on Saturday?
He just has to trust his own ability. He's a good boxer, Lyndon. He's got good fundamentals, good feet, good jab. He has to use all of those things and just give himself a chance, basically, to get into the fight. He can't be negative. He's got to look for his successes where he can find them. But Bivol's not necessarily the kind of guy who is going to jump on you either. He will have a look and see what he sees, because these two don't really know that much about each other. Certainly Bivol doesn't know too much about Lyndon Arthur. Strangely with Bivol, I did take a while to be convinced by him, even though he moved really quickly. I remember he got that knockout in Monaco against Trent Broadhurst, and that was much heralded, but I thought it was kind of a strange knockout, and it took me a while to kind of just come around to him. But then, of course, you know, you look at what he's done in some of his fights. I do think he's the kind of fighter who, the better the opponent is, the better he is. Yeah. I think that's what he does. And against Canelo, you know, that was something else, because I thought that he was capable of winning that fight, but that it would be really, really close and he probably wouldn't get it. But as it was, he won it so comprehensively that there was no way the judges could do anything else. And then the performance against Ramirez, you know, again, Ramirez is absolutely enormous. You know, he weighs in on the night.
He's up a cruiserweight now, and he's big there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, on the night when he was boxing at light heavy, he'd be over 200 pounds.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you talk about how Bivol, maybe there have been some performances in there where he was a bit flat. People talk about his fight with Craig Richards, and that was, you know, fairly close. A couple of the judges had it quite close that night, and maybe that actually ended up earning him the fight with Canelo, because he didn't look as, you know, like a huge world beater. So what kind of Bivol can we expect now? Now that he's got his tail up, now that he's had that fight with Canelo, the win over Canelo, win over Gilberto Ramirez, is this therefore the best Bivol ever?
I mean, it could very well be, because you have to remember the stage we're on and the rewards that are available here if you keep winning, because him and Beterbiev were both here at the end of October, and we saw those pictures of them speaking to each other. Not much was said between them. You know, Dimitri said that to us the other day. They didn't really talk too much about the fight particularly. I don't really believe him, because why wouldn't they have talked about the fight? But that fight needs to be made. It'd be a fight for Undisputed, and it's exactly the kind of fight that would really interest the authorities here. I'm absolutely sure about that, because they are going to have to move outside the heavyweight division, because you can't constantly be having massive headliners in the heavyweights. You'll run out of fights at some point. So they will look down the weights, and they're already doing it, like you said earlier on, and that stands out as a really obvious one to make.
The light heavyweight division does feel like it's going to get blessed by this Saudi Arabian kind of love for boxing, which is emerging. And hey, yeah, I think they've talked about that. They've talked about Beterbiev v Bivol, or, you know, you can't overlook Callum Smith, but that Undisputed fight perhaps happening out here. I'd imagine that's the general plan here. And Dimitri Bivol, this could be the first of a few fights in Saudi Arabia. Hey, it could be the same for Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely right to point out that fight that Beterbiev's got with Callum Smith. You know, I'm looking forward to that in mid-January. It's a big task for Callum going away to Canada, but I do give him a good chance in that fight. I absolutely do, because I was ringside for Beterbiev's fight against Anthony Yarde, as you were yourself, and I felt that Anthony really, really pushed him that night. Big baby Jarrell Miller just making his way in. Nice yawn on him there as he strolls down the walkway.
But was that a yawn, or was that like a roar, like a lion? Have we got the big baby roaring?
Who knows? With this guy, who knows? He's still undefeated. I kind of forgot that when I looked at his record a couple of weeks ago, but he has been very inactive. But yeah, anyway, just back to what we were talking about. I do give Callum Smith a good chance in that fight, because I feel like Anthony Yarde took something from Beterbiev that night, possibly. Could turn out not to be the case, but at 38 years old, in your late 30s, no matter how you've lived a life, and he is a consummate pro, at some point it will start to tell. And Anthony, at the end of that 5th round, he was right above me, Beterbiev, in his corner, and Mark Ramsey's massaging his calves, he's blowing a bit, he's a little bit marked up, and they had to give him a real G-up to get him going, because they knew that the fight had kind of turned against him at that point. And great champion that he is, he found the answer. But that was, I remember looking at that and just thinking, this maybe this could be the night. Didn't quite happen, but that night is coming at some point.
Hey, but that might also be because of Anthony Yarde. We've got to think of how aggressive he is, how many moments in those fights, in that fight, where he was able to suddenly turn it around. When other fighters have wilted, you get a barrage of shots from Beterbiev in the corner, you tend to find the floor. Anthony Yarde didn't, he turned that around. So we've got to ask ourselves, has Callum Smith got the same spirit in him that Anthony Yarde had when he is just getting blows raining down on him? That's what I'm finding very interesting about that fight.
Yeah, and you're not the first person to say that to me, and I feel like he does. He lost the fight against Canelo, but he did go the distance, which at super middleweight not that many people do. He won't be in any way proud of that, because fighters are never proud of defeats, but there was the ruptured bicep. There were problems leading up to the fight as well. He's not used them as any kind of excuse, because that's not who he is. But you're not the first person to say that to me, that in the heat of a really, really hard fight like that against someone like Beterbiev, you know, will he have the minerals? I feel like he will. It would be a massive win to go away to Canada and win 3 world titles. You'd have to put it up there with the best wins by a British fighter in recent times, but I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to Dimitri Bivol on Saturday night against Britain's Lyndon Arthur. Now, we just mentioned Anthony Yarde there. Anthony Yarde is the only man to beat Lyndon Arthur. But again, he doesn't box anything like Dimitri Bivol. Anthony Yarde, in that particular fight, was seek and destroy. He went after Lyndon Arthur. I'm not sure Dimitri Bivol will box Lyndon Arthur anything like Anthony Yarde did.
No, I don't think so. I think Bivol's one of these guys who, you know, he's been boxing for a really long time. He had a long amateur career, and he feels like he can find an answer whatever the other person does. He's methodical, and he's very, very efficient. He's very organised and very well set up. And you mentioned that fight against Craig Richards, and he did enough in that fight. I felt like he won the fight 8-4, maybe 7-5. Craig did well, but when he was put to Dimitri, who's going to come and join us in a sec, that it was a close fight, he looked fairly nonplussed.
Here is Dimitri Bivol. Great to see you. Dimitri, we are now just hours away from your fight in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on Saturday night against Lyndon Arthur. How do you feel, Dimitri?
I feel great. Now, after training, when I came in the ring, I feel this smell, this mood of fighting, and I'm really excited. I missed for the ring and for fighting.
It feels like there is a vision to make the undisputed fight, a vision for you, should you come through against Lyndon Arthur, to fight Beterbiev if he comes through Callum Smith. Are you seeing that vision? Is that what you think is going to happen?
Of course, I'm thinking about it. Of course, this is in my plan, this is in my head. Yes, I want this fight. I want the winner of the Smith and Beterbiev.
Let me just ask you this. Last time when you were in Riyadh, you and Beterbiev actually came face to face, and someone made a comment about, oh, how come you're not fighting? And he said, ask him, and walked off. What did you think about that?
You know, it's nothing. It's just talking, it's just some showing behavior. For me, main thing is what you're gonna do in the ring, and we will see in the ring, and everything will be great, you know.
Is it a relief for you to be back boxing, because you've been out of the ring for a long time?
What? Sorry?
You've been away from boxing for a long time. It's been a long time since your last fight. It must be a relief to be back.
Yeah, of course it's great that I'm coming back, and but I spent good time without boxing. I healed my body. I cleaned my mind. I feel myself fresh.
Well, let me ask you this. There was a clip going around on social media the other day. At the end of your fight with Canelo, you did this. You sort of tapped your shoulder and went no, like that. Yeah. What did you say to him in that moment, Dimitri?
I just told that, don't punch on the shoulders. Why? It wasn't make sense in that fight, to be honest.
In terms of your opponent, Lyndon Arthur, he might be somebody you didn't know too much about. Are you a fighter who watches your opponents on tape, or do you let your trainer do that?
I'm sorry, I'm trained.
Do you watch your opponents?
Yeah, of course I watched his fights. I watched a couple of his fights, and I have to watch because I need to know his good sides, and just notice it, and then I should working on myself. I should improve my good sides. Not thinking about him. I have to think about improving myself.
Did you watch his fight as part of your preparation? Did you watch his fights with Anthony Yard?
Yeah, I watched his fight. Yeah, of course, against Yard. First and second fight, yeah.
Well, I mean, what did you think? What did you think of the first fight, where he seemed to use his jab very well?
Yeah, he used his jab. This is why I noticed that he has a good jab. And the second fight, I think Yard was so angry. He wanted so much to take a revenge, and he beat him. He just punched on the liver. It was good, clean punch.
Fantastic. Dimitri, brilliant speaking to you. We'll speak to you tomorrow at the press conference. Great to see you, my friend. Dimitri Bivol, the WBA light heavyweight champion. Had a bit of a handshake, fist bump moment there. I don't know if you saw it, Andy. I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he won't be putting that on his social media. Here is Big Baby Miller. Look at this. This is an unbeaten heavyweight. He's going to come in probably around, I spoke to him briefly the other day. He thinks he's going to be about 320, which is lighter than what he was against Lucas Brown, where he was in the 350 range.
320 is still pretty solid. I mean, that's 23 stone essentially. 322
it's not bad, is it?
Is 23 stone, so that's a lot. But he carries it well. You look at the frame on him, he does carry it well. He's got absolutely enormous thighs, thick waist, thick shoulders, thick everything basically. And he's always been around that weight, and he's always been able to handle it. He's always been able to carry it around the ring, so that wouldn't be any surprise were he to come in that heavy. I'm very curious about this fight still. I fancy Dubois, as I've said to you all week. I fancy Dubois heavily in this fight, and I fancy him to look good as well. But if Miller can rediscover the kind of mobility and the engine and the punch output that he used to have a few years back, then it could be interesting.
It will be interesting. You can see him just shouting off there, just like he's really been doing all week. He's certainly added some intensity. I don't think he's saying something there to Derek Chisora potentially as well, which was potentially going to be a fight. But of course he is fighting Daniel Dubois, completely different proposition to Derek Chisora. Daniel Dubois, a real sharpshooter who will be thinking that he can find the shots to break down this tree, to chop down this tree. That's how Daniel Dubois has been describing it, but I don't think Daniel Dubois has ever had to punch someone who weighs maybe 100 pounds more than him.
No, and that's not really a typical scenario, is it?
Not a heavyweight, no.
No, but you do get that every now and again. I remember David Hay, I think, was 99 pounds lighter than Nikolai Valuev when they tangled all those years ago now. But if you're Dubois, and I'm sure that Don Charles will have been saying this to him, just box, just let your hands go, and just feel it, just see what happens. You don't want to set yourself any targets in terms of you want to stop him in this round or that round. That kind of thing that doesn't really work. Trainers hate that. Just get in there, do your thing, be aggressive, book in for a long job, expect it to be a long job. Don't tense up and load up and waste energy, missing. Just land. It's a big target to land on. Every time you throw at Jarrell Miller, you should hit something.
Exactly that. You should hit something. He's a massive, massive target. And we can see Frank Warren now has arrived. And of course it's his man, Daniel Dubois. I've seen people talk about what a great job he's done with Daniel Dubois. I would have to agree with that. He's had him since his professional debut, got him sort of fresh out of the amateurs. He didn't go to the Olympics, he was 19 years old. Frank got him and has guided his career to this point. And here is the Hall of Fame boxing promoter, Frank Warren. How are we, sir? How are we?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Listen, Frank, we were just talking actually about Daniel Dubois. We were talking about how you have been with him every step of the journey, turned professional at 19 years old. It's been up, it's been down, but it has to be up on Saturday night.
It does. He's got to win this fight. He's got to win it in style, and he's got to show the doubters that he does have a desire and he has heart. And that's really what it's about for him. We know he's got the skills, and he's just got to show the determination to get back into the position he should be in, which is up there with the best.
Well, you've been in those meetings with him. I've seen him, come into the office, you sit down, you have a little chat, as you do with all the fighters. When you've had that kind of one-on-one time with him, when you've reflected on the Usyk fight, for example, what are those conversations like? And are you seeing that fire in him?
He seems pretty positive today. Oh, he's been positive all week. It's when we get to the dressing room on the night, that's when it matters. People can wake up one day and feel different than they did the following day. With a fighter, it's really important that on the night of the fight that everything is positive and that you're in the frame of mind to be a winner. He wants to be a winner. I think he is a winner. And he has to go out now and do this in style.
Well, it's interesting, you can see Dubois on the screen now. I think he's got a new energy drink sponsor there in hype. But I'll tell you, if he is able to knock out Jarrell Miller, who is unbeaten, who has been talking for years and years, that could make this guy a superstar on Saturday night, Frank.
Well, look, it's there for him to do. We provided him the platform. We've worked very hard with him outside of the ring and provided these opportunities. He's very, very capable, I said. You've seen him at his best. At his best, he's an unbelievable fighter. But you're only as good as your last fight. And that's the bottom line of it. So he's got to do this job in style, got to be positive, and he's got to go and come. As soon as that first bell goes, he's got to take the centre of the ring, and he's got to be the boss. Get behind his jab and just keep backing Miller up, backing him up, and letting those right hands go.
Do you feel like he understands that now is the time?
Yeah, well, if he doesn't, then he doesn't understand my language. I mean, as we're talking, I've emphasised this to him much more than I could do. I know his trainer's done the same. This is it. This is where we're at now. He's got to go out and show what he's all about.
I think people are forgetting, for the Usyk fight, he'd only just got with Don Charles. They didn't have very long. Suddenly they were fighting Alexander Usyk for 3 belts. Now they've had an extra camp together. They've had that learning together. How much can this additional time with Don Charles help?
Well, it will obviously help. There's no doubt about that. But he could have won that last fight. He could have won it, and he needed grit his teeth, and he would have won it. I know the referee absolutely phased him and took a lot of his concentration away. But look, that's boxing, and he now has to go and make a statement. It's as simple as that. I mean, look at him. He's a unit.
He's an absolute unit. Look, Alexander Usyk found that out.
Yeah, and he hurt him, and you've not seen him hurt like that in a pro fight. I haven't anyway.
Oh, absolutely. No, it doesn't sound like you've never doubted his ability, have you? You've never doubted that the athletic raw materials are there. It's just the minerals, really.
Look, from day one, we signed him at a very young age. We were involved with him before he was old enough to turn professional. And the reports we got, like some of the fighters, big name fighters, much more mature than him, who he was involved with. How you doing, big man?
Here comes the big baby. Grab that.
And we're talking in the early days when he knocked over some seriously big names, put them out, knocked them out, and he was a kid, 17 years of age.
So Jarrell Miller, we were just talking about Daniel Dubois with Frank Warren there, and how this is now or never for Daniel, and obviously you're going to try and make sure it's never.
Yeah, I mean, we put all the tactics aside. Yeah, it's a both do or die fight for both of us. I'm back on redemption. He's coming off a great loss because it wasn't a horrible loss. It was a great loss. He lost a good guy and Usyk. But the problem is how he lost in a way towards the end. He kind of gave up, that aggressive behavior he had in the middle rounds. That's what I'm going to capitalize off.
And Frank, how does Jarrell Miller shape up to you? This is the man in the way of Daniel Dubois.
He's not fighting me. He looks fit. He looks very fit. He looks well. And it's going to be a tough fight. He knows that. Deep down, he knows he's in a tough fight. It's going to be a real good quality fight. It's a quality matchup. And the winner of this fight will go on and be involved in the next stage of what we're doing here. Everything here to be grabbed for both of them. massive incentive for both of them.
Yeah, and I have to give Frank Warren a lot of props, man. Like, it's a great card, it's a great matchup with two hungry guys. And the thing about it, too, is, listen, bro, it's the end of the year. How's the best way to end the holidays on Christmas? And Frank Warren did a great, amazing job by, picking up the phone and said, listen, you want to fight? I said, shit, let's get it on. And, hey, made it happen.
And you've enjoyed this week, Jarrell. And we've enjoyed you as well. You've been around the heavyweights. You've been livening things up. You've been confronting people in hotel lobbies.
Correct.
Have you had fun?
Oh, yeah, I gotta have fun. I mean, the minute you don't see me smiling, there's a problem. That's when you gotta back up. Cause I'm serious. But if I'm smiling, having fun, that's part of boxing. If you can't have fun in this game, get out of it. And same thing I do in the ring. When I'm getting hit in the face on blocking shots, I'm actually having fun, believe it or not. So that's what I continue to keep doing. Be entertaining. Let the fans know Big Baby's still here. Shit happens in life, but hey, keep pushing on.
Frank, what do you think Daniel Dubois' game plan should be against this guy?
I'm not going to tell you.
Listen. I'll tell you one thing. Don't bet your house on Dubois.
That's a big statement. He said, don't bet your house on Daniel Dubois.
Listen. Frank likes me already. He got options on my next fight. Don't worry about it. So he know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Tell me, Jarrell, we're looking at Daniel Dubois on the screen there. He's getting his hands wrapped. He's been he's been pretty relaxed all week. He's surprised me. He's been quite chatty in interviews. What have you made of Daniel Dubois?
I mean, he's always been a pretty simple, quiet guy. I look more in the eyes. The eyes twitch a lot. He kind of doesn't really focus on one thing, you know what I mean? So I read him. I'm not going to say certain things about him, but I understand his mentality already. But nothing really about him really stands out to me at all, man. Other than that, he got 2 losses. He's a little chinny and his heart suspect, so we're going to capitalize over that.
Are you expecting a long night, a quick night? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it all depends. It depends on how he starts off, really. If he starts off fast, he's going to end early. If he starts off slow, he's going to end a little later. It all depends on what he starts off with, really. I'm going to dictate my pace off of him. I'm the kind of guy that I kind of feel you out a couple rounds, see how I feel, then I beat you up.
I saw the video earlier this week where you were at the buffet, you were eating shrimp, and you were referring to the shrimp as Daniel Dubois. Yeah. What's that about?
His brain is a shrimp. I guarantee we cut his head open, his brain's gonna be the size of a shrimp. You know what I mean? The IQ of a walnut. So like you said before, brother, Big Baby ain't nothing to play with. And I'm gonna attack every part of him, even the mental part.
So if he's a shrimp, what sea-based creature is Jarrell Miller?
I'm more like a shark. He's more like a plankton, you know what I mean? So,
Fantastic. Jarrell, brilliant having you here.
Thank you,
Frank,
guys.
we'll just keep you for a little bit longer. Jarrell, we're just going to let you go. Oh, mate.
Thank you, guys.
Mate.
I was afraid. Thank you, guys. All right, guys, no problem.
Frank, I just want to keep you on, just talk about the main event fights. Anthony Joshua against Valin, Deontay Wilder, of course, against Joseph Parker. What have you made of Anthony Joshua, one of the most scrutinised athletes in the world? What have you made of his demeanour this week? Anthony Joshua.
What he's really asking, Frank, is what did you make of his treatment of Dev yesterday?
Look, I've never been around him for a big fight. He's not one of our guys. All fighters are different. Some are nice and relaxed, like Tyson. Some guys, they're pretty moody and brusque, and that's how it seems he is this week. Or maybe he just don't like you. I don't know. But whatever it is, at the end of the day, don't matter. Don't matter whether you like him or he likes you. All it's about is being professional and doing your job. He's got to be professional and do his job in the ring. You've got to do your job out here. And you do a great job. It's been brilliant. And you've got to just rise above that nonsense. All that matters is there's a fight on Saturday. And he's got more to worry about than you. He's got to worry about Wallin, who fancies the job.
Well, in terms of that, it is Wallin on Saturday night. But as you say, there's been this clip out there with me. There's been the hotel lobby altercation with Jarrell Miller where they're kind of brought apart a little bit. It feels like there's maybe distractions out there when Otto Wallin's the guy who's going to be trying to beat him on Saturday.
I don't know about all that. Look, that's the fight game. All this stuff that goes on outside the ring means nothing. Once that first bell goes, you've got your opponent in front of you, and that's all you got to worry about. And if you're distracted before the fight through someone else, then I'm telling you, you shouldn't be in the ring in the first place.
What about Deontay Wilder? He's a man that you have been around for a number of fights, of course, the Tyson Fury trilogy. This time, for this fight, he seems so at peace from what I've seen. He's got quite an energy about him. Have you detected a change in Deontay Wilder?
I have, actually. He seems more at ease with himself. From what I know of him, he seems more at ease, seems very relaxed. He's got a tough fight. Joe Parker, he's a competitor. He comes to fight. He's only been stopped once in his career, and he's won his last fight and won it in good style. And if you think about, you know, who he trains with all the time, who he hangs out with, which is Tyson, he'll be picking up tips from him as well. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I think both of the joint main events, I think they have tough fights.
I agree that there's a bit of a change in Wilder. Did you think that's come about because when you've been knocking everybody out and winning all your fights, and then all of a sudden, twice in a row, he got beaten and he got stopped both times, you have to find a way to deal with it, and I think that's probably why he's a different person now.
I think he struggled. You know, the first fight against Tyson, he generally felt that it was all over in that last round. And when Tyson got up and took the fight to him and came at, by the end of the round, was back on top, I think that took a lot out of him. Second fight, Tyson just done a job, as we all see. And the third fight, bringing on his new trainer, I think done a good job with him, Malik Scott, an excellent job. That was a tough fight for both of them. Tyson prevailed at the end. But, you know, he's a tough guy, and it's going to be interesting to see what that fight has taken out of him. It's 2 years ago. He's had a win since, but, you know, mentally, what is that up there? What is in his head?
Well, we're looking at Joseph Parker on the screen. I just want to ask you, you're, of course, ringside for his epic battle with Joe Joyce, where Joe Joyce overcame him in the end. But I felt like we learned something about Joe Parker that night. He was very tough, he was very game, and for a while he wouldn't go away.
No, not at all. I mean, that was a great fight, great performance by Joe. Joe took shots in that fight, but a great performance by him. And Joe Parker comes to fight. And all these guys are basically at a stage of their career where they cannot afford the loss. They need to win, and that's why it's such a great card.
Yeah, and perhaps no more so than Daniel Dubois there, who, once again, there are questions out there about him. We've talked about it, though, and he looks like he's very relaxed. We've just seen him smile. We've just seen him snarl. Are you happy with what you've seen from Daniel Dubois this week?
It seems all okay to me. You know, he's just had a little move around in the ring now. Yeah, that's all. All the hard work was done last week. This week, it's a waiting game. You know, countdown time every day. You just wanted to get it over with. You just want to get to the night, get to the fight. That's what everybody's waiting for, and that's what they want. They hate all this hanging around, all this media stuff and everything. All they want to do is do what they're paid to do, which is fight. And that's what Daniel wants. And then once that bell goes, we're going to see what he's got.
It feels like, from speaking to him this week, what happened with Alexander Usyk, that can be something that either breaks you or makes you.
Correct.
And it feels like the latter for Daniel.
We'll find out. I know I keep saying it. We'll find out on Saturday. We can hypothesize, we can say all these various things, but at the end of the day, so you're not going to know till the bell goes. That's why you've got to watch this. You've got to be on Saturday night, watch this fight. Let's see what he's got, what he's going to bring. And let's see what Jarrell Miller brings as well, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? At any level, basically, you've got fighters sometimes who are really good in the gym, who look great during the week. They say all the right things, but then, as you say, it can all be lost on the ring walk even sometimes. The mentality is what it's about at this level. And you're right about Miller too, because he's boxed 3 times since he beat Bogdan Dinu in late 2018, and he talks a lot. So we don't really question him, do we? We don't really question his confidence, but he might be feeling this one too, because this is a massive opportunity for him. If he loses, he's done at this level.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I mean, we can, as I say, you can have all the theories in the world and whatever, and everything what Andy said is absolutely spot on. But your game plan goes out. Somebody punches you in the face, your game plan goes out the window. Where's your plan B? Where's your plan C? Not a lot of fighters can do that. And Daniel, his plan has got to be the boss. That's it. And this fella here, who's in the ring now, he knows what he's got to do. He's got his game plan for this fight. He works his game plan out through working with Tyson. He knows what he's going to have to do to try and overcome Deontay Wilder. The thing is, what he knows he has to do, can he put it into practice?
It's exactly that. Can he put it into practice? And the way Tyson Fury actually explained it, he's done a few interviews, and I think Joe Parker said it as well. Tyson told him, keep away from the right hand and you'll be all right.
That's it, for 36 minutes.
Hey, it's a tall task, but no one else has really been able to do that other than Tyson.
Look, he's a dangerous, dangerous man. Well, he caught Tyson. Tyson managed to take the shot. He's got a good chin. Joe's got a good chin. Yeah. You know, against Joe Joyce, he got caught with a really good shot, and he's in with the biggest puncher out there. So we'll see.
How do you think Joe Parker will approach this fight? I've heard things about it being a shootout. Do you agree with a shootout?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see it. I mean, you've got to put, as Tyson did in that second fight, you've got to try, and it's the word is try, he's going to have to try and put Deontay on the back foot. Can he do that? Because Deontay coming forward, letting his shots go, is dangerous. So you've got to put him on the back foot.
So how's it been this week? How's it been behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's been quite hectic, and it's, you know, late nights, because we're funny now. What we've been doing behind the scenes is working out the next show at the moment. But look, it's very, there's some good stuff coming out, some really good fights being put together, and this show is just going to be the icing on the cake for this year. And I think at the end of the day, Saturday night, we're going to see who's coming out of the Day of Reckoning. Who are the fighters to be reckoned with next year out of the Day of Reckoning? That's what this is all about. And then we will see who goes on to the next shows moving forward. They all know how important it is. Every one of them knows how important it is.
Over 40 years as a promoter, Frank, are we approaching a golden era in boxing because of the involvement, investment from Saudi Arabia?
I think we are. I think Saudi Arabia has firmly planted their flag on the boxing mat, and I genuinely believe this Riyadh will be probably the centre of world boxing. I genuinely believe that's going to happen.
And
it is happening. But I think next year will be even bigger.
We were talking about this earlier, and how right now it feels like they've picked the heavyweights. They're doing a little bit with the light heavyweights, a little bit with cruiserweight, and all the other weight divisions will be saying, pick me next, pick me next. Has there been talks about more weights getting involved?
I can't get into the details of what we're talking about at the moment, but let me tell you, it's exciting times. You know, the kingdom is committed to boxing, and that for boxing is brilliant. Brilliant for everybody involved, brilliant for the boxers. If you're a boxer and you are a quality boxer and you're a top operator, you will be boxing here in the future.
Keep that phone on.
And you just look at the setup of this place. This place is like an absolutely enormous kind of music video studio almost. We got the ring on this end, but where the boxing is on Saturday is right down the far end. Right down the far end, still enough for about 8,000 seats, I think. And in between the two, they're in the process of constructing something else. I won't say what in case it's top secret, but I had a quick nose around earlier on, and it's just yet again the scale of everything here is absolutely incredible.
There's that man.
Well, let's talk about I agree, Andy, the scale is incredible, and the scale of Daniel Dubois is incredible as well. Please take the mic, Daniel. Frank, you wouldn't tell Big Baby Miller. Tell Daniel Dubois what he's got to do to win. How does he beat Big Baby Miller?
He's going to let those bombs go. Those exocets, he's going to let them go, launch them, and that will take him out.
Let them rockets out.
Listen, Daniel, we were talking earlier about how you've been quite relaxed this week. It looks like you've been smiling more. It looks like you've been having fun. Is that because Miller has brought that out of you with some of his antics?
I don't know. I'm just at a point in my career now where feeling nervous and all that, it's a waste of energy. So stay focused on a fight. I just come off the biggest fight in the world, and I'm ready to just shut everyone up and do the business.
How much confidence did you take from that? Because Alexander Usyk is one of the best fighters in the world. There's no doubt about that. And you came this close to beating him. You think you were robbed?
Yeah, definitely robbed. But you know what? I'm saying that I did my bit there, and now I'm here. So I'm ready to just step it up now. Step it up.
This is a different kind of situation, isn't it, though? Because against Usyk, you emerge with credit, but you lost. There's no losing that can happen here. This is a must-win.
There's no losing at all, no. Losing ain't an option. I'm ready to win by any means necessary.
Tell him what you're going to do. What are you going to do?
Put him to sleep.
Good. And that's
Put
it.
him to sleep.
That's what it's about.
You know what? This is it. Put him to sleep.
That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Daniel, you come through Jarrell Miller. You're the first man to beat him. It feels like you'd become a superstar on Saturday night, and you enter that top table. Do you think you're ready for the guys after that? The Anthony Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, you ready to go back there?
Definitely. This is a fight that pushes you in that place. You know, then everyone outside the ring does their job.
Well, Frank, you're doing a great job so far.
Well, we're trying hard. He'll do the job. He knows what he's got to do. He's not a fool. He's a very sensible guy. He knows what he has to bring to the party on Saturday. And if he does what I know he can do, he'll win it.
Yeah.
And Daniel, listen, we saw a picture of yourself and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh go around yesterday. What was it like to meet him, and how was it?
It was a good exchange. He's an interesting guy. He's got big plans, and you know, it's exciting being in that position. I'm privileged. There's not many people that will get to meet the guy, so it's good.
Fantastic.
And how's the partnership with Don Charles? I mean, you haven't had too long to work together. Last fight was your first fight. How are you finding it?
It's great. You know, we've gelled, I think, a bit more and understand each other a bit better. We're going to go out there and show the world what we're all about.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to let you both go. Mr. Frank Warren, Mr. Daniel Dubois. A partnership which could lead to a big win on Saturday night for Daniel Dubois. That is what he is hoping for. That is the aim. That is the potential superstar-making performance against a man in Jarrell Miller who has been talking for years and years and years. He has been shoving people at press conferences. He has been confronting them in hotel lobbies. He has been winding people up. And if Daniel Dubois becomes the man who can shut him up, hey, big statement, Andy.
It would be. It's really interesting to see Frank around Daniel Dubois, I find, because you can see how much he believes in him. You can see that he's always recognised the talent and that he believes that he knows what he's capable of, but that we haven't seen it yet, and that he knows that now is the time where we must see it. So I think Frank is a bit nervous about this fight for Daniel on the weekend, because I just think he knows that if he can't produce on this kind of platform on the weekend, then he probably never will. And if that turns out to be the case, then it would be a real waste of talent, because he's got a lot of ability, he's got the natural athleticism, all of that stuff. And you can kind of feel it off Frank, can't you, really, that he's just desperate for him to show that and to really kick on to that next level. He feels like it's in him to do it, but now is the time. It has to happen now.
It has to happen now. And listen, his career trajectory when he turned professional, all the articles out there about this guy, you know, he done this to AJ in sparring, he's the next Anthony Joshua, he's the next British boxing hope, and then he ran into Joe Joyce and all those questions began. But it feels like, from talking to him there, from seeing his energy, feels like he has grown, feels like he's matured, feels like he's learned from these experiences.
Yeah, it does. He's been different this week. I've not been around him a lot, but I've been around him enough to kind of see the change in him. And it's just a question of producing on the night. It's as simple as that. Frank was referring to it, and we can talk all we want, and we do during the week, because that's what we're here for, quite literally. But until that bell goes on Saturday, we don't really know what we're going to get from Daniel Dubois. And Miller will be looking to make it rough in there for him, to drag him into the trenches, you know, play that game of who could drown the longest. You know, that's not a fun game. And he's got to make sure, Dubois, if he's in there with him, that he's determined it is not going to be me, it is going to be you. You know, that's what he needs to do, because you look at the size of Jarrell Miller, it's difficult to see a quick knockout. As discussed, anyone can go if they get caught, right? But it's difficult to see that. So I think it is going to be difficult for Dubois at stages. And I think, to be honest, if you're in the Dubois business, you want it to be. Because the way that fight finished against Usyk, that was a problem, because Big Don's over there, Don Charles, and at the end of the 8th round, he was telling him when he got up from that knockout, don't do it, don't do it. You thought about doing it, do not do it. We've worked too hard to get here. And then in the next round, he did it. I mean, that's what happened.
Well, here is Joseph Parker. Big Joe Parker, how are you? You had fun, right?
Listen, the music's playing.
Yeah.
And I've had a good race today. I got my whole team here, and everything is good.
Have you brought your family over as well?
My brother's here, my cousins, coaches, massage therapist, chef. George Lockhart, everyone's here.
And you had your last fight here, you got this fight here, hey, maybe your next fight will be here. Feels like Riyadh's becoming home.
Listen, I'm very familiar with Riyadh, and every time we've come here, we've had the best time. I'm not just saying that we had the best time, good service, well looked after, and everything is on point and on track for Saturday night.
Fantastic. Well, listen, let's bring in Andy Lee here. Andy, I was watching an interview with you earlier. You did a few, brilliant. I always listen to them. Talked about this fight with Deontay Wilder potentially being a shootout. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We're coming for a knockout, and he comes for a knockout, so it can't be anything else. We're not going the distance. We're preparing for a knockout win.
I watched the same interview and it made me laugh because you said basically people can really tend to overcomplicate boxing, and I'm watching it thinking I am definitely one of those people. But at the same time you said it is a simple sport. You know, we talked about it during the week. Someone's going down on Saturday. It is as simple as that.
Yeah. When you get into the technicalities of it, there is some complications, but when you know the basics, like in anything, you have to master the essence. You have to master the basics and the fundamentals, and then you find the essence. And then, so we can get deep into it. But really, when you bear it all, hit the man and don't get hit. Simple. And there's many ways to do that. There is many ways to do it. But
let me ask you this: the only man to beat him, of course, has been Tyson Fury. Have you guys been, not just, obviously you got Tyson with you, but have you been watching those fights, pausing it, going through it, rewinding it? Like, does that happen?
We watched the third fight a bit. We watched Helenius. Those are his two last recent fights. There's a lot. The more you watch him, you cannot. If you don't watch a fighter and you listen to all the hype, you can get intimidated very easily. But just by watching him, you can see your chance. You can see what you can do. I can see what Joe can do, and the chance we have and the opportunity we have. And I think it's a great situation for Joseph. A great situation.
You're not intimidated at all, are you, Joseph?
Oh, we are here and we are ready. Like Andy said, everything's done. Now it's time to go out there and perform. That's it.
We were saying to Frank Warren just now, actually, that as a character, Deontay Wilder does seem to have changed a bit over the last few years, maybe due to those defeats against Tyson. He seems like a bit of a philosopher these days.
Yeah,
have you noticed that?
It's a different approach, and I guess maybe it's the opponents that he fights. Different approach from what he's had in the past. And I guess it's great to be respectful. He's still with a new coach as well. Yeah. And I think a fighter like Deontay, who is a devastating puncher, if you try to add some technicalities to him, you might take away some of the things that got him to where he once was. There's ups and downs to everything you do in life and in boxing, and for every up that he might gain in technique, he might lose a bit of that explosiveness or that rawness or the unorthodox style that he had that made him so unpredictable.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to a coach in a different sport about this not that long ago, and he was saying to me that you do want to strengthen weaknesses if you can, but it can't come at the expense of weakening strengths, basically.
Yeah, you can you can overtrain a fighter to where they just drill. You have to let them improvise themselves and have their own thoughts. You know what I mean? It's a simple game, as I said, simple game.
Let me ask you about his fight with Robert Helenius. That was the last one. Now, a lot of people will look at that and they'll say first round knockout, he knocked him out. But in the time preceding that, did he have it all his own way against Robert Helenius, or did you see anything in those preceding 2 minutes 57 seconds to suggest maybe he's not the guy he was?
You can't really tell just from the little round, the first round. He was just moving around. He was sparring partner, former sparring partner, just moving with him.
Well, look, he's about to be introduced. You're about to look at the man himself. What do you see when you look at this guy, Joseph Parker? You're looking at the screen. What do you think?
I see a man, and his name is Deontay Wilder, and he's ready to put on a public performance.
Well, look, he's a man who also plans to knock you out, though. I mean, there's not many men around here who are planning on doing that on Saturday. Just this guy.
Yeah. Listen, he wants to knock me out. I want to knock him out. And all the fighters on the undercard will knock each other out. That's guys, can I just let Joseph watch this now without me talking about it? You go watch Deontay. And if you want me to stay, I'll stay. But if not, I'm happy to leave too.
No, you can stay
with us. Absolutely. Joseph Parker is going to get pull up a pew, maybe ringside, to have a better look at Deontay Wilder. But we do have Andy Lee with us. Deontay's getting a little massage in there. What have you made of Deontay Wilder this week at the launch press conference. Actually, he was very peaceful, didn't want any beef with anyone, and then he went to the States and started doing interviews about AJ, talking about Parker as well, what he's going to do to him. What do you make of him?
I haven't had an interaction with him this week. They haven't even had a face-off yet. Listen, you can't read anything into anything, you know. You saw this stuff. There might be some bit of bravado or gamesmanship in it, but you can't tell a thing by a public workout. You can't tell a thing by a person's demeanour. I don't like to look at those stretches, but they look pretty like he could snap a muscle pretty easy. How qualified is this fella?
They do look a tad painful. Don't be doing that to me. But yeah, I guess he's stretching out.
He does have this. People talk about natural punches. He does have this crazy kind of almost elasticity to him, whereby he can punch hard without really seeming to be balanced.
It's a free. How he can generate this power from. If you watch him from a textbook point of view, you say he does everything wrong, but how can that be? Also, it's a paradox because he can generate such power, like that with devastating one-punch knockouts.
When you got that call, Andy, from Joseph saying, listen, they've offered me Wilder, what was your first reaction to that? Was that, okay, let's go and do it then? Or was it, hold on, let me just...
No, give me, I'll call you back in a minute.
And did you call him back 1 minute later, or...?
A couple hours. I talked to my brother Roger Lee, talked to Adam Booth, I talked to Sugar Hill. But ultimately, I backed myself, and my original gut feeling was take the fight. Because this is what we're in the game for. Big challenges, and this is the biggest challenge. This is the biggest challenge. You got Anthony Joshua having a warm-up fight to fight this guy. So if Anthony Joshua is the champion, Joseph's the man stepping in the ring with him. So we know what challenge this is.
Joe Parker feels like the man who always says yes. Not many people were putting their hand up when Joe Joyce needed an opponent.
Yeah, no one will fight Joyce. And listen, Joe Joyce, we have massive respect for him, and I think he gets heels up a little bit. He's got still a force to be reckoned with. Chili Zhang, just the wrong style, the wrong opponent, and that's what it is. And I thought that, to be honest with you, I thought that for my Joseph against Joe Joyce, because the time in your development as a fighter is important, and the styles are important. I think Joe Joyce can come back from what he's been through, and he'd be better for it.
What did Joe Parker learn? What did you guys as a camp, as a team, what did you learn from the Joe Joyce fight? What did you take from it?
A lot. We learned a lot. Things we already knew about Joseph, but I said after the fight, Joseph got a heart bigger than his whole arena. He went to that fight under the weather. I don't want to say how bad it was, but he wasn't in full health, but he still stepped into the ring. Like I said, he's a warrior. And he gave Joyce a good go and a fair fight. We learned a lot. We learned a lot about preparing in camp, and if we're ever in that situation again, me as a coach, if ever my fighter is sick, no matter how big the fight is, I'll be taking him out and won't let him fight.
He's all right now, isn't he?
100%.
It's interesting looking at Wilder here because he has been very relaxed all week. You know, he's been good fun to be around, but at the same time, having lost those 2 fights to Fury, okay, Fury's an outstanding fighter. No one's really talking about Deontay Wilder being under pressure here, but he's under a lot of pressure here.
He's the one pressure. We got no pressure. We got no pressure. He's got a lot of pressure to live up to, and especially with this fight looming. If they keep talking about this fight, and he's looking at that fight with Joshua, good for us. I'm going to go watch, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Brilliant having you. Thank you. Mr. Andy Lee, a big night ahead on Saturday night for Team Andy Lee as he graces past the camera here. But look, it feels like they have learnt from the Joe Joyce fight. They know what they need to do on Saturday, or at least they think they do.
Yeah, they do, and I agree with almost everything that Andy says, because you know, you look at the trainers he had Emmanuel Stewart, and they chose him. The Kronk tracked him since an amateur, Andy. They chose him, and then he moved on to Adam Booth, and he had a lot of success under both of them. And he is a man who knows all about knocking people out. I mean, he provided some incredible knockouts himself, Andy, and that wasn't something that came that naturally to him to begin with, but he was taught the art of punching hard, and the raw materials were obviously there. So when he says that Joseph Parker is capable of knocking Deontay Wilder out, he knows that it's true. And we talk about it a lot. We have done today, yesterday, the day before, about how in the heavyweights anyone can go. But you have to execute that punch under pressure when you get your chance. That's what it's all about. And that's what the drills are for, and that's what they will have been concentrating on in camp. He will have seen where he feels the openings are. Because as he said in that interview we both watched, he would never put a fighter of his in with someone he didn't think they could beat. They think they can beat him. And it's not just a kind of shrug of the shoulders, oh, I think we can beat him. They'll know how they're going to go about doing it, or what they've seen to make them think that they can do it.
Well, we're going to bring in a man here who has been by Joseph Parker's side every step of the way. Always great to speak to you, David Higgins. Hey, your man's got a tall task on Saturday, perhaps one of the hardest fights in the heavyweight division in Deontay Wilder. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, look, it's a massive fight on the global stage, and it's a massive, tough fight, but Joe's not without a chance there. You know, there's a few things in his favour. I think if you look at Joseph's resume and who Joseph Parker has fought, you know, Andy Ruiz, Carlos Takam, beat Chisora twice, and so on. There's more on Joseph's resume in terms of that high-level experience. Obviously, Joseph's a lot more busy. Like it's his fourth fight this year. Wilder, I think they're saying he's only fought around 2 years. So there are, you know, we're confident, and it's the best prepared, most mentally relaxed Joseph Parker I've seen in a long time.
I mean, it's some journey you've been on with Joe, isn't it? You know, you look at what he's achieved, winning that title in New Zealand against Andy Ruiz, and then we got to know him in the UK, taking those fights back to back against AJ and Dillian Whyte. You know, and now he's on to a new chapter, hopefully. Yeah, and you're right. Just reflecting, it has been quite a journey. I think it shows in boxing that if you stay fit and stay busy and you're winning and always ready, an opportunity can come out of nowhere. Like, look at the opportunity Ruiz got against Anthony Joshua. And similarly here, we thought we were finishing the year with the last win, but here we are. You know, this massive opportunity comes along.
You feel like Joseph Parker has the better wins than Deontay Wilder?
The better wins? Well, he's got more big names on his resume that he's gone toe-to-toe with for up to 12 rounds. Obviously, Wilder has Tyson Fury, but other than that, you know, there's Carlos Ortiz. But Joseph definitely has more rounds against better opposition.
Tell me this. A lot of people are reading into Deontay Wilder's sort of his fights with Tyson Fury and how he was a warrior and he came through. Certainly the third one, you know, he lost, but his stock went up. But were there not moments earlier on in his career where perhaps lesser fighters were able to have success, were able to hurt him? Are you paying much attention to that?
Yeah, sure. I think you're right there. And there are chinks in Deontay Wilder's armour. Arguably his defence, his general boxing and ring craft. Obviously his weapon is that massive, murderous bomb of a right-hand punch. But if Joseph can contend with that punch, Joseph should be a better boxer than Wilder.
What's the experience of watching him like? Because you've been with him for a long time. I mean, you're almost kind of like family, and sitting at ringside watching someone box is not an easy thing to do, particularly at heavyweight.
Yeah, I'm sort of philosophical about it. We are like family, and I love Joseph like a brother, and been there from the beginning. But, you know, again, philosophical. I can't control what happens in the ring, and Joseph loves it. He wants to be in the ring. Like, I'd run a mile, whereas Joseph feels at home in the ring. He's relaxed and he's well prepared. So, you know, I'm excited for him, and I'm very excited if he can get over Deontay Wilder. That'll be probably the defining fight of his career.
Andy Lee talks about this fight potentially being a shootout. Now, when you just write that out, that someone's going to have a shootout with Deontay Wilder, you tend to favour Deontay Wilder, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this shootout scenario?
Yeah, I mean, Joseph's quite compact compared to, say, Tyson Fury. And on the inside, I mean, you saw Joseph knock Chisora down with uppercuts 3 times. You saw Joseph win his last fight with a knockout uppercut. So it'll be interesting to see on the inside. I think Deontay Wilder can be knocked out if Joseph connects with a good or perfect punch. So I think a shootout is going to be entertaining for the fans, isn't it?
I mean, if he wins this fight, Joseph, this would be a massive moment in New Zealand sport, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be up there all time, I reckon. It will be one of the greatest moments in New Zealand sport, and also Joseph's a massive underdog with all the betting agencies globally, so it would be an upset as well to many people.
But not for you.
I see the fight as closer than how the bookies see it, that's for sure. And Joseph has left no stone unturned. He's fought 3 times already. He's got momentum. He's on the up. He's knocking people out again. He's had 2 or 3 stoppages this year. And he's just in a great headspace. Wilder, he's had that period off, been shaken up a bit by Tyson Fury, only had a round or 2 in 2 years' time. So, do we have a chance? Absolutely. I think Joseph Parker can do the job.
You've been with Joseph every step of the way. He put out this promo video on his Instagram the other day showing Joseph Parker through the ages, a guy who was through the amateurs, then winning his world title. What have you learnt the most? What do you love most about Joseph Parker and working with him?
I love how he stayed the same person from before we signed him. I signed him as his first promoter, but Joseph's not changed. He's no ego. He genuinely, some people act humble, they pretend to be humble, but they're not. Joseph treats everyone equally, whether it's the toilet cleaner or the CEO. He's very generous, and what you see is what you get. He's got a big heart.
He's got a very big heart indeed. Look, before we let you go, I want to get your thoughts on the co-main event, on the Anthony Joshua against Otto Wallin fight. Anthony Joshua, a guy that you guys have fought before with Joseph Parker as well. Talk to me about this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wallin's going to be tricky for Joshua. He's a left-hand southpaw. Obviously, Usyk was tricky for Joshua. I think it depends on where Joshua's head is at. If Joshua's exercised his demons and fully focused and present, he should be able to make relatively easy work of Wallin. But if Joshua's at all shaky mentally, I can see Wallin knocking him out.
That's heavyweight boxing, isn't it? That's heavyweight boxing. That edge does come with a mentality. It's we talked about it before. It's about that ability, that willingness to commit, isn't it? To roll the dice, because it is a roll of the dice in there, isn't it, for the big man? You never really know.
Yeah, and that's the beauty compared to any other sport. In boxing, you really don't know quite what's going to happen. And then you see upsets like Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson. And so it's got everyone on the edge of their seats.
Fantastic speaking to you, Mr. David Higgins. Best of luck to you and the team on Saturday night.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pop that mic back there. Fist bump. I'm committed to the See, we talked about my fist bump.
You've been very consistent today.
Yeah. It's a very efficient system. But we are looking at Deontay Wilder. And look, there is a confidence from the Parker team. There's no doubt about that. I think they appreciate how big a task it is, but they also appreciate and they know there is a route to victory in this fight for Joseph Parker.
There is. And their confidence is real. We were talking about it yesterday with Darren Barker, and you can tell during fight week whether somebody's confidence is real or not, or whether it's just bluster and they're more trying to convince themselves than anybody else. And it's not that. You can tell with Parker it's not that. Wilder's confidence, I think, is where it needs to be. You just look at him work out here, and he is such an unusual physical specimen, because he bulked up a bit for that third Fury fight. He was, 232, I think, for that fight, wasn't he? Something like that. So the heaviest he's ever been. But generally, at times he's been as low as, I think, 209 pounds as a heavyweight, which is nothing really. No one ever really talks about it, because he's got this absolutely ginormous punching power. Just the leverages and the reach that he's got, and as I described it, that kind of elasticity. It's all sinew, isn't it, and muscle on him. I mean, it's kind of You know, I'm no biologist, I'm no scientist, but you just look at the pure mechanics of him, and I do find it kind of mesmerising.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you this Malik Scott as well. I've been watching a few of his interviews. He's a great talker, and he's been talking about Joseph Parker. And one thing that they are doing as a camp is that they are actually giving Parker his credit. Malik Scott thinks that Joseph Parker doesn't get anywhere near the credit he deserves, and he thinks that because they are acknowledging that, it actually gives Deontay Wilder an advantage because he's not underestimated him.
No, and that's absolutely key. You know, you see it so many times when somebody goes into the ring with somebody who they don't really regard as a threat. It means you don't have that fear. It means that you don't train with the intensity that you need to have. And that's what happened to Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou. Frank tells us that he was hard training every day, and I believe him. But if you're not doing that work really feeling like you're in for a tough night, then it's just not at the level that it needs to be. And if you go to the ring feeling like the person opposite you isn't capable of beating you, then you can have a problem, particularly if you don't get off to a great start. You can have a massive problem.
Absolutely. Well, Andy, I think you are being asked by our producers to potentially go and interview somebody very, very shortly. And we are watching Deontay Wilder in the ring, one of the heaviest hitters of all time, perhaps the heaviest hitter in heavyweight history, certainly in World Championship heavyweight history. Whatever he hits tends to fall. You see Otto Wallin limbering up here, big task for him on Saturday night as well. But Otto Wallin is also a very confident man. All these guys are confident, and it feels like when you talk actually to Otto Wallin and you talk about his confidence, he's kind of like, well, duh. Yes, of course I'm confident. I'm going to be confident. He's been boxing his whole life.
Yeah, of course, and you know this is part of the rigmarole of the beat of the game that we play during fight week, because we have to ask questions at times to which the answer for the person you're asking them to is incredibly obvious, but we have to ask them anyway. And I know that fighters and athletes in other sports that I've covered, they get frustrated with it sometimes. He hasn't. He's been great.
No, he's been good.
Sometimes they just don't really see the point of it, and I understand that. But every now and again, like I said, you do come across somebody and you ask them if they're confident and they give you an answer and you look at them and you don't actually believe them. So they are worth asking, those questions. Sometimes they're not appreciated hugely, but at other times they can be quite revealing.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt at all that the man that we are looking at has the ultimate confidence. There would have been question marks as to, you know, after the second Tyson Fury fight, where the invincibility cloak was completely ripped off of him, as you talked about earlier. I think there were a few cracks in the first fight where Fury was able to get up. Hey, people don't really do that, and a lot of people said that Fury won. But in the second fight, in particular, Tyson Fury walked him down and stopped him. And then you think, okay, in the fight after that, have you still got that same killer instinct? Are you still that guy, Deontay? And hey, looks like he is.
It does. When you lose to somebody twice, it's a problem, because when you lose the first time, you can think of something. Like I said earlier, in the ring, he said the best man won on the night. Then pretty soon afterwards, it was the heaviness of the costume took it out of his legs. Then it was glove tampering. Then it was all sorts of stuff. And I understood it, because that's what you need to do. Fighters need to find a reason why they've lost, even if deep down they know that it's nonsense, and cling to that, because the pure explanation of the other person being too good for you, that doesn't work if you're going to rematch them particularly. But if you then lose to them again, that's harder to explain, particularly when you put them down twice in a round and been on the brink, and then in the end you just couldn't quite get over the line. That's harder to explain. Anthony Joshua had the same thing with Alexander Usyk after the first fight. I fought the wrong fight. You know, it was an obvious thing to think, wasn't it? I fought the wrong fight. Second fight, and as I said, I do believe it's a performance that will age well. I think maybe the reason why we saw what we did in the ring at the end, where he took the microphone and said what he said, was because you don't have any answers at that point. You don't have any answers, and you know that you've been in with a really good fighter. And as Ross Amber said, you know, you feel like you're probably going to get hammered again for losing to a really good opponent. So consecutive defeats against the same person, they're tough. I mean, they're really tough to explain. But he must have found a way to get past it. We think he has, because he won that fight against Hellenius, and he feels like the same person, he sounds like the same person, but we won't really know until he's in a hard fight.
Yeah, and we've just seen his bomb squad, his trademark bomb squad, scream down the camera as he steps over the top rope. And I'll tell you, thankfully, because of the music in here, I couldn't actually hear that bomb squad, else I'd probably have fallen out under the table or something. He frightens the life out of me every time he does it. Look at this. We talk about confidence and confident fighters. This guy has not lost any confidence whatsoever, but a big task ahead of him in Joseph Parker. And if he is able to win this fight, feels like, on paper, it's at least equal with Luis Ortiz as the best win of his career, at the very least. I think you probably have to put it above the Ortiz win, because Parker's a former world champion who's mixed it actually with the best.
Yeah, that was an interesting point you made earlier, actually, talking to David Higgins, and it wasn't one I'd really thought about as who's got the better wins, because Wilder had this mad succession of knockout wins and he was cleaning everybody out, and that's impressive. I don't care what anyone says, it's impressive. But at the same time, that was the criticism, wasn't it? It was who have you beaten, and why won't you kind of step up? And it was frustrating him because he agreed to go to Russia to fight Povetkin. I mean, he had to because it was a mandatory, but they lost the purse bid, so he was going to have to go to Russia, and he had no qualms about that whatsoever. And then the fight obviously didn't happen, and he was always looking for unifications, one of which was against Parker, and he felt that people never really wanted to take them, and you never really know at the time who's to blame in those situations. One thing I always do think is that fighters aren't scared of each other. They want to fight, but there are other things that can get in the way. But that was the criticism that was levelled at Wilder. But after the trilogy against Fury, no one could ever doubt his bravery. That's for sure. But he desperately needs this win.
Absolutely that. And you talk about how Wilder, perhaps hasn't had the opportunities. I think he's been a bit unlucky at times. There was a period in his career, what you talked about there, he couldn't sign to fight Alexander Povetkin quick enough. He couldn't sign to go over to Russia and have that fight quick enough. Maybe he'd have knocked out Alexander Povetkin. Maybe he'd have done that, and then he would have got the respect earlier on in his career. But he thinks he's been unlucky. He thinks people have ran away from unification fights. I'm probably going to bring this up at the press conference because he said that actually about Joseph Parker. He says that he went to see that Gerald Washington fight, but he saw something he didn't like, and then he shied away from fighting Deontay Wilder. And well, look, he went on to fight Anthony Joshua in his unification. So he feels a tad hard done by. But here's a man with an opportunity of a lifetime, Otto Wallin. And hey, he's going to be one of these guys who can say that he's boxed Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua by the end of Saturday night. He gave Fury a scare. Can he give Joshua a scare, Andy?
I think it's possible he could. It was a good performance against Fury, and on another night in another place with another referee, that could have gone his way because that cut was horrendous. The referee needs to give the fighter every chance, and he needs to give the corner every chance to work on the cut in those kinds of situations. And in the USA, I think they do give you more of a chance than maybe they do in the UK. So that was definitely a scare for Fury that night, and that really put Otto Wallin on the map. And then the win against Kasiev recently, that's a really good win because that wasn't the script. Again, that wasn't supposed to happen. He was the away fighter, he took it, it was a gamble, and he got the win, and that's what's seen him end up here. But the reality is, he has not been, apart from Fury, in anything like the same level as Joshua, who's had that string of fights, 10, 11, 12 in a row of world title fights, taking on basically all comers. People point out the fact that he didn't fight Wilder. They point out the fact that, the unification or the fight against Fury wasn't made either. But as always, there are two sides to every story. It's very, very possible that Joshua will turn it on Saturday night and comprehensively beat Otto Wallin, because actually when you look at their CVs and you look at what they've achieved, there is a big gulf between them.
There absolutely is, and we talked briefly about this yesterday. Otto Wallin has been talking up his chances. He has been talking down Anthony Joshua. He's talked about how Joshua has passed his peak, in his opinion. He's been alluding to mental frailties here and there. He said a lot of things that I don't think Team Joshua particularly like. But there's a chance here. Hey, maybe he's lit a fire in Anthony Joshua, and maybe he's talked himself into a bit of a beating on Saturday.
That is possible. We were talking about this yesterday, weren't we? And that is possible, because if you're Joshua and you've operated at the level that he has, under the pressure and scrutiny that he's been under for such a long time, and then you have somebody who has not experienced that to anything like the same level, criticising your mentality and your mental fortitude, I wouldn't take too kindly to that either, because you just think to yourself, well, who are you to say? If somebody who's been at the same level as you levels that accusation at you, you're not going to like it either, and you're not going to accept it, but at the same time, you might be able to shrug it off a little bit easier. But as he said to us on Monday, there's lots of people on this card that have had lots of things to say about him. If they're on the same level as him, then, you know, he can entertain it. And he did say that he felt that Volley was on his level because he's fighting him. If you look at their careers up to this point, he isn't actually, but he's afforded him that status, and correctly, because they're going to get into the ring together. He was really talking about Miller, wasn't he, basically, when he was saying that. Yeah. But I think he's played a good game, Valin, because he's looked to try and get under Joshua's skin, and the signs are that he may have done.
Has he got the power to deter Anthony Joshua? Will we have that fear factor in there for AJ, or do you think AJ will just try and, with an early storm, get at him straight away? Will Anthony Joshua have enough respect for Otto Wallin's punch power? Because he doesn't knock a lot of people out, Otto Wallin.
No, he doesn't, and I think all of them have respect for their opponent's punch power. But what you've got to do, and I've talked to a lot of fighters about this over the course of the last year or so, it's that word commitment. You have to commit. You have to commit with your feet, you have to hold your feet, you have to commit to the punch through the target. And that'll mean that sometimes you stay still and therefore hittable and open yourself for that split second longer. But if you're going to land a really meaningful shot, that's what you have to do. What I would love to see Joshua do is just take the middle of the ring and just establish that jab. Use that jab, those real solid fundamentals that he's always had. Because what he's always been is a really good finisher. Whenever he's got an opening, whenever he's had an opportunity, he's made that commitment and he's got the job done. He's not been this guy who's jumped all over people, this kind of wrecking machine. People have kind of invented that a bit, to be honest, when they talk about the old Joshua. But what he always did was he set things up behind the jab. He was nice and organised. He was nice and balanced. He had that little kind of like, you know, bob and glide as he would dip his knees and come in. And then he would just commit to throwing his punches. It's as simple as that, really. I make it sound simple. I mean, sport, elite level sport, I mean, most of it's up here.
He's got to make it simple. That seems to be the message.
I think so,
here.
yeah.
And I guess the you know, people talk about the old AJ, the early AJ against Dillian Whyte. You know, that was it feels like a different version where he was in there, he was poking his tongue out, he was having a bit of fun, he got into a fight and he knocked him out. Do you have any feeling that maybe that Anthony Joshua would have done better against Alexander Usyk by not overthinking it?
I don't think so necessarily. I think the first fight was a real problem because I don't think the game plan was right in that first fight, and he ends up losing the fight. Ross was right. That was a pretty close fight through 8 rounds. I scored that in the end 117-111, so 9-3. He got into it in about rounds 5 and 6 from memory. Joshua did some good work to the body, and I had it 4-2 at that point. And then Usyk, I think, did what he does, which is provided a response and had a big 7th round and kind of semi-closed the door as Anthony just makes his way into the back of the arena now with Eddie Hearn by his side. And it will be interesting to see what we get from him today as well. And but going back to that first fight, I think it was a problem because, you know, you lose the fight and then there are question marks. That second fight was close. I don't care what anyone says. I was there, I was ringside, it was close. Through 9 rounds, that was anyone's. It could have been 5-4 either way. And then Usyk again, you know, when he really needed to, bit down, did whatever it was that he needed to do, and he won those final 3 rounds, and therefore he won the fight. It was a clear winner in a close fight, is what we had there.
Yeah, and there's no harm in losing. I mean, you know, there's no shame in losing to Alexander Usyk. And here is Deontay, the bronze bomber Wilder. Mr. Wilder, how are you, sir?
What's going on? How y'all doing? It's a party up in here, man.
It feels like a party. Come on, show us these moves. Oh, look at this.
It's a little two-step. It's a little simple two-step. It's a happiness dance.
Will you be dancing on Saturday night, Deontay?
I definitely will be dancing on Saturday night and doing a little partying as well, baby. I can't wait. We up here in Saudi Arabia, one of the best that have done it in boxing promotion. thus far. I have never seen a card like this, and I never have seen promotion as well put together as they've done it here in Saudi Arabia.
What they're doing here for Riyadh season has been absolutely incredible. It feels like they really love the heavyweight division. If they love the heavyweight division, they got to love Deontay Wilder.
Oh, man, big time, big time. Since I've been here, this is my second time here, but my debut is coming Saturday, and the love, the energy, the passion, and the support that I've got here since been here has been overwhelming. It has been amazing, and I'm looking forward to coming here each and every time. You know, it's just a warm welcome that I've been getting. And when you're a fighter and you come into another country that is not your own and they're supporting and loving you like this, it just make you want to fight even harder for them, because these guys that have the Saudi people have embraced me as if I'm one of their own. And when I feel like this, I feel like I'm at home. So when I feel like I'm at home, it's going to bring the best out of Deontay Wilder.
Listen, Deontay, we all know you're fighting Joseph Parker on Saturday, but we can't ignore all these reports and all these rumours that the man on the screen could well be your fight after that if you're successful. Tell us what you're looking at here in Anthony Joshua. What do you see?
Well, right now I see Anthony Joshua right now. You know, he's dancing a little bit and he's getting ready. Right now we're here for Joseph Parker. All week long it's been the talks about Anthony Joshua. But at the end of the day, I got Joseph Parker in front of me. And at this moment in time, being a veteran in the business, I know I can't focus on this man. Me and him will get it on. I think we will get it on at some point in time. But right now, it's only, 3 or 2 days away from the fight. So my total focus right now is on Joseph Parker. I'll be a foolish man to look past him. I'm not looking past him, but I do look through somebody. I like to window shop a little bit, but right now my mind is solely on Joseph Parker, because all the theatrics, all the love and the energy and passion that have been given to me, it don't mean nothing if I don't get past Joseph Parker.
It's been interesting listening to you this week, because it seems to me that you're slightly more philosophical these days. You speak a little bit differently, the subjects that you kind of address. I mean, where do you agree with that, and where do you think that has come from? Is that a result of having to, confront the defeats, or getting older, or what is it?
I mean, it just come from, I'm still the same guy, but it just come from getting older. You get wiser. I got more children. I got, they're looking up to me. They're getting older. They understanding and realizing a lot of things. And one thing for sure, I'm happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been in life. And I have peace. When you have happiness and peace in your life, no matter what goes on, you're able to roll with the punches. You're looking at a man that got a statue. No boxer today can say they have a statue or a logistic one. So majority of my accomplishments has been set in stone within a statue. I have so many amazing things going on in my life. I can't complain at all. Every day you see a smile. I wear a smile on my face like a mask. So, and another thing I can't forget, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca has changed my life. Oh my God. Where I go to ayahuasca is in Costa Rica at Rhythmia. It's a place called Rhythmia. And I go there, me and my family. After this fight, I'm taking a couple of fighters and my family are gonna go. We're going to go back to ayahuasca. It's a beautiful journey. And if you haven't tried it, please do.
I mean, we don't really have time to get into it completely, but I mean, I am interested. I do understand what it is to an extent. Is it supposed to be sort of purging or cleansing experience?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes. Many people get afraid of what they may see. But the saying is, you may not get what you want, but you will leave with what you need.
Deontay, let me ask you this. Obviously, you've talked about how, you're completely focused on Parker. You're not even talking about this guy here, Anthony Joshua. But do you think he is completely focused on Otto Wallin?
I don't think so. I think it's more pressure on him than mine. Women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. I'm a knockout artist. So what I do, I go in and destroy guys. And the hype has been up, and it's been so long, you know, that people have been talking about me and him getting in the ring. And I think it's a lot of pressure on him than me. I'm content in life, I'm happy. A lot of people talk about how he responded to media. I had a lot of media come up to me today and ask me about his behavior. I said, y'all putting a lot of pressure on him. He got to focus on Otto Wallen, because Otto Wallen is very 100% focused on him. And I don't know where Joshua's mind is. I'm not him. I don't know what he's thinking about. Maybe it's just all a facade, you know. Maybe he's ready. Maybe he's gonna be, when the time comes, he will prove a lot of people wrong. But at this moment in time, if I could encourage him and I could tell him something, I would tell him, don't worry about the talks. Don't even worry about me, brother. You got a fight come Saturday night. We got a fight come Saturday night. We must complete the task, complete the mission, and get the job done. And I would tell him, just stay focused. Don't worry about none of the talk. And like I said before, when I saw him, even if we don't fight, I wish him nothing but the best in life, nothing but the best. Because I know what it takes, and I know how it is to be a fighter in the ring, and on the outside, you're dealing with everyday life. You're dealing with your lifestyle, you're dealing with family, and you're dealing with people that come to you for help. Everybody comes to you with their problems, but sometimes we have nobody to go to and plug in and say, where do I get the strength and energy from? So I wish him nothing but the best, you know, and I'll leave it at that.
We saw at the...
he's already finished.
We saw... Oh.
Y'all got a lot of pressure on this man. I wish everybody would back off into a fight. You know?
Do you feel sorry for him?
I don't feel sorry for no man. I didn't. He asked to be here. Nobody make him come and fight. You know, this is what he chose to do. So I don't feel sorry for him, because at any given moment in time, he can retire if he wants to. You know, so, you know, he is because he wants to. So, but, you know, his demeanor, his action about himself is definitely,
Listen, you've been in the same sort of room as him more than one time away from camera. There's been promo shoots, there's been visits with His Excellency as well. Have you had any other interactions with him?
Not like I want to. I would love to get a one-on-one with him. I would love to talk to him and pick his brain a little bit, and just get a more private conversation with him, personal, and just to try to. He wouldn't have to tell me everything, but I would want to know how he's thinking and how his mind is taking all this in, even with the talk and stuff like that. Because sometimes we can talk differently amongst each other than with the media is around. So, but you know, at one point in time, I was going to go to England, and I was going to invite him to dinner and have a seat and see what's going on. Because we don't know what's going on at home. We don't know what's going on in the business. We don't know. All we want is to fight. Everybody wants to fight. And sometimes we can't please everybody. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. John, I'm afraid we're going to have to swap you out for Otto Wallen. I'm sorry about that, but I could listen to you all day.
An absolute pleasure, Deontay.
We need to get Otto Wallen over here.
We will see you at the press conference.
Thanks very much.
Deontay Wilder, great energy.
Waiting patiently.
And Otto Wallen, I believe, is imminent and will join us, but he's just done a bomb squad out of shock. Andy, he's killed me.
He's blindsided you again.
He's done a bomb squad out of shock. My goodness. Well, that's the man they call All In. Wallen is here. He's close by. Deontay Wilder is getting a few photos, but here is Otto Wallen, the man himself. Otto, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
Enjoy your workout?
Yeah, short and sweet, but it's all we need right now.
It's been an interesting week. You know, we've really enjoyed listening to you speak during the course of the week. I was saying the same thing to you the other day. Do you think that people have been surprised by the personality that you've shown this week?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I'm just, like I said, I think I said in the last interview, I just try to be myself. And that surprised some people. Well, okay, they didn't know me enough, I guess. But it's nice I'm here. I get to show myself. I'm going to showcase my skills on Saturday. Get to show a little bit more of my personality right now, I guess.
Are you expecting an early storm, an early onslaught from Anthony Joshua on Saturday?
I'm certainly ready for it, but I'm not expecting it, but I'm ready for it. I think that he can try, but he's gonna start getting hit shots, and he doesn't like that, and then he revert back to whatever he's doing.
Do you feel you've got the power to deter him?
Definitely. I heard Fury, I heard Gassiev, I can hurt Joshua.
What fights have you been watching of Anthony Joshua to help you prepare for your fight with him on Saturday?
Well, over the years, we know each other pretty well from sparring and fighting in the amateurs. And for fights, I watched pretty much all of his fights when they happened. And then for this fight, of course, I watched Franklin, Helenius, Usyk, the 2 fights with Usyk, Ruiz, Charles Martin just before I came here. Pretty much all of his fights, to be honest. And my trainer, he's watching like a maniac too. He's watched more than me.
Well, listen, that's a trainer that you've been with, your whole career as well. What's the sort of vibe in the camp? How good are you feeling heading into this?
I feel great. I feel confident in myself, my team. So it feels great. I mean, we have a really good bond. We trust each other. I trust my trainers. They trust me. So I think that's very important. And it really helps when you're going into a fight like this, that you can really trust your trainer and your team.
Do you feel like all of his attention is on you? Because, I don't know, you see him with Jarrell Miller, there's videos going around of them sort of having a bit of a chat. Everyone's talking about him, and there's been little interactions here and there. Do you feel like all of his attention is on you for Saturday?
I don't know what's going through his mind, to be honest, but I like it. I like it a lot that Miller's going after him, and then you have Wilder and him talking and saying that they're gonna fight. So I think that's perfect. You see what happened last time when Fury fought Ngannou. They had that Usyk and Fury fight that was gonna take place now. It didn't happen, so a lot of things is gonna happen Saturday night.
Hey, so this heavyweight division is all about best laid plans. So many times we see best laid plans unravel. I mean, when you're seeing these reports about, hey, tonight's or Saturday's just a semi-final, the winners are going to meet. I mean, what are you thinking when you're hearing that? Because people are talking about Joshua Wilder. What are you thinking?
I'm not thinking about it too much. I just think it's to my advantage, to be honest, that maybe he's focusing on them, maybe not, but I think it's just to my advantage. And I'm just focusing on Joshua right now. I'm not thinking too far ahead.
And a win for Otto Wallin, what does that mean?
That means so much for me and my family, my team, my people in Sweden. This is going to be great. It's something we've been waiting for.
It's fantastic. And then there's been all this talk about a rematch clause and things like that. And you said that maybe that exposes a little bit of maybe they're not that confident. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, the story about the rematch clause, of course, they have that in the contract on his side. And then I hadn't spoken about it to anyone. And then all of a sudden Eddie Hearn was speaking about it in an interview. Of course, I'm going to start getting questions about it. And I say my opinion. I say, I think it's silly. He's not the world champion anymore. The only reason why they would have a rematch clause is because they're scared of him losing, right? That's just my opinion. But then, oh my God, Eddie Hearn, he was just digging into me. He hit me with pretty much everything but the kitchen sink, and he was really going after me. But, he kind of said that I won the lottery to be here. But I just want to tell him that I've been working very hard since I was 15 years old to be in this position. And I won 26 fights. I worked extremely hard. I sacrificed a lot to be here. And it's not the lottery why I'm here. I really earned to be here.
Well, Andy Clark's gone off for a little walk, but I've got Gareth A. Davis here with me. And there's something about Otto Wallin this week. So calm, so confident, so relaxed. What have you seen from this man here, and what chance do you give him on Saturday? A lot of people are writing him off.
Otto's got nothing to lose. He told me about 10 days ago. He's saying all the right things. He's got nothing to lose. He thinks Joshua's scared of fighting. Joshua's team are saying he's going to come out and throw his hands. You know that the longer you take him, the more uncomfortable you can make him.
I think so, but don't they say that every fight that he's going to come out swinging and knocking the guy out? We heard that before, so no worries.
He didn't show anything tonight, did he?
He didn't show too much, but I've already seen enough. I don't need to see anything more.
It must be amazing to be from a small village in Sweden where professional boxing wasn't even allowed when you turned pro, to be here in Riyadh on the biggest card ever.
I'm just going to have to cut you off, Otto. We will come back to you. Andy Clark is currently with Anthony Joshua. Let's have a look at what he's got to say.
So, Anthony, let's talk about the fight. People have been talking about all sorts this week. Otto Wallin's had a lot to say. Has he talked himself into even bigger trouble here?
No, he's ready. He's ready. So am I. It's good.
We were talking on Monday about rediscovering the knockout against Robert Helenius and how you've been attacking the pads in training. That knockout feeling, it must have been good to have it back.
Yeah, 100%. I'm ready. I do want to hurt him, yeah. That's fact.
Well, that's the business you're in.
Exactly. There's no games here. I do want to hurt him.
And what kind of problems do you feel like he could present?
A lot of problems. But that's high-level competition. I won't kind of go over everything that I've been studying about him, but let's just say he's got a good mindset. He's spoken a lot, so you know where his head's at. He's game in it, and that'll be good enough for me. That's good enough to bring the best out of me.
Do you feel like the older you get, the easier it is to deal with all the noise around fight week? Do you feel like the older and the more experience you get, the easier it is to deal with the noise?
100%. Yeah. This ain't fun for me. This is just work. What's going to be fun is Saturday night, getting my hand raised. That's what my heart, my soul, my whole being in existence right now is focused on. Is just being successful Saturday. I really want to win. Really want to win.
I mean, you've been focused in from an early stage this week. I'm just curious, just finally, at what point during the week does that switch really get flicked where you go into pure fight mode?
Obviously, we're in training camp, but yeah, switch when I came out here. I told everyone, like, with all due respect, don't bother me, like, because everyone else comes around from, we're a small team in training camp, then here it gets really busy. And I'm like, don't let too many people come around me because I don't want to lose sight of like what's important. All this is really nice, but this ain't for me. This is for the entertainment. This is for the viewers. This is for people that have come to Saudi to watch the night of boxing. My entertainment is in the ring Saturday night, and I'm not there yet, so I've got to stay focused. I'm still actually in training camp until Friday night, so I really should be at home resting, doing some film study or stretching. Do you know what I mean? But I'm here with you guys out of contractual obligations. You know how that goes, so I'm going to fulfill my obligations, but ultimately my true obligation is to fight Saturday night.
And we appreciate it. What are we going to see on Saturday night finally?
Well, I need to win. I have to win. And yeah, if it's destined, if it's meant to be, it will be in it. But in terms of like how the fight will go, yeah, I think blood, bruising. Yeah, a bit of blood, bruises. It'll be tough. It'll be good though. It'll be good.
Okay, I'll let you go. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, God bless. Enjoy.
Well, that was Anthony Joshua. We've just seen him on the screen there. I heard little bits of what he said, but one thing was very clear. He wants to win. He needs to win. How important is the win on Saturday for Anthony Joshua?
Well, the win is really important. Every single thing he does is highly scrutinised. It has been for an entire decade. For me, though, it's how he wins and when he wins. If he's spectacular early in the fight, if he lets those combinations go, he's one of the greatest finishers we've ever seen. That's been lacking in his performances of late. I'm hearing from the Ben Davison camp with him that he has been amazing in camp. Can he deliver that in the ring? That's always the big question mark. If he can, huge fights in 2024.
Well, let's bring in Andy Clark, who had that chat with Anthony Joshua. I could only hear little bits, but what did you take from it? What was the main message?
Yeah, I mean, he's ready to go, basically. He doesn't really enjoy this during fight week, I don't think. I think the more of these you do, the more used to it you get, the less maybe you do enjoy it. But he seems focused. He was happy enough. He was happy enough to talk, but he just wants to get back to the hotel, you know, and just bide his time until fight night, until it really matters. But he knows that Volin presents a threat, but one that he's confident that he'll deal with.
What do you make of Ben Davison and Barry and the team saying that, and they haven't just been working with him for a few weeks, by the way. I can reveal that they've been giving him advice for a long time. They've gone and simplified things for him. They've looked at what Otto Wallin does very well, and they've said, go out and exploit them. I would love it if they pull the trigger and they let him off the leash straight away.
Yeah, I mean, keeping it simple is exactly what we feel he needs to do. The basic fundamentals, which he's always had, if he can execute them well, commit to them, then I think we could see a really good performance.
It could well be. Andy, fantastic to have you. Thank you for doing that interview as well. Gareth, thank you so much. We are now going to close up. That is us, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what a workout we've had here. What a week this is turning into in Riyadh. We are now just days away from the day of reckoning. Saturday night, one of the biggest, one of the best, one of the greatest shows ever put on in the history of boxing will take place. We can't wait for it.